Oh, back again. Welcome to a very special episode of Force Rush In. I am your host tonight, Rich. Fifey has decided to have a night off, but like I said, we have a very special episode. We have a full panel, and we are also joined by a very special guest, which I will introduce. But first, let's roll the titles.
Take my hand, take my whole life too, but I can't help falling in love with you.
Swindon Town into the promised land.
And like I said, we have a very special guest tonight, but let's introduce our panel first. And let's introduce Nick to the panel. How are we doing, Nick? Are you okay?
Yeah, really good, Rich. Obviously, the weekend was good and absolutely buzzing for tonight's show. Really looking forward to it. And I'm sure there'll be some interesting chat going on. So, yeah, can't wait to get started.
Absolutely. Plenty to divulge. Are you excited for our special guest?
Yeah, 100%. I think most people on Fools know my views, so we'll see how it goes. So all positive.
Absolutely. And let's introduce Mark to the panel. How are we doing tonight, Mark?
I'm all right. Fake Fifey, have you had a shave?
I've had a haircut. I've had a shave. I got the call earlier on from Fifey saying, Rich, do you want to do the stream tonight? And I said, oh.
Yeah, living the dream.
It was a hard one to turn down. So I called my
exactly.
barber up straight away and I got a skin fade, got the beard off, and I'm ready to go as host
Absolutely.
for only the second time. But I only do the big ones, apparently.
Yeah.
That's it, mate. We will wheel you out on the red carpet for the big ones.
Yeah.
And let's introduce Kieran to the panel. How are we doing tonight, Kieran?
Yeah, not too bad. Of course, as a guest, so I am here naturally. I only turn up when there's a guest. I don't know what the rest of this Swindon Town crap is these days.
I host when there's a guest. You come on when there's a guest. It's just the way it goes. And let's introduce. Yeah, absolutely, mate. And let's introduce our very special guest. Please welcome to the panel, Fabrizio Piccareta. How are we doing tonight, Fabrizio?
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me. And it's a pleasure to be hosted by you guys. And no shave for me.
We wouldn't want it, Fabrizio. No, it's our absolute pleasure to have you on, and thank you so much for agreeing. I know you and Mark have been talking for the last few months now, obviously, to try and make this happen, and I'm glad that we could finally make this happen. And like I said, we're very much lads down the pub, so we're just obviously we'll all ask you some questions tonight. I know Kieran, obviously Kieran's around my age, so we were so transfixed during the Palo de Cano era, so and we can't wait to hear some of the amazing stories that you have about your time at Swindon Town. So I think we'll just dive straight into it. Obviously, you've been coaching for an awful long time now, for 20 plus years. Is that right?
Yeah, more or less. I started coaching in 2003. For roughly 8 years, I coached at the youth level in Italy, amateur level. Then I started to coach a bit, part-time professional. And then the turning point of my career, obviously was when Paolo asked me to join him in 2011 to come to Swindon, and that was a great leap forward for me, in my coaching career, because I came from a totally different environment. For me, was like sort of a shock to be in the English football, which was my dream, because I think
Yeah.
that everyone who has the dream to coach someday think that would like to have this chance. I have to say that my dream went even more than what I expected, because as you all know, then we had the chance to coach in the Premier League. So uh, it was great. And then, of course, after we left England with Paolo, as you probably know, Paolo now is no longer coaching, and I have to reinvent my career. I've been almost everywhere in Europe, and start to walk with my legs, if you like.
Yeah.
And now, it's 20 years more or less that I'm in the business.
Sure. I mean, so how did how did the combination between yourself and Paolo come about? Because how long have you been have you known each other? How did you get to know each other? Was it through a certain something?
No, was happened in 2008, when I went to Coverciano. Coverciano is the main house of the Italian coaches, where all the federation courses, for your badges, take place. And I was fortunate to be in the group of former important players, such as Paolo, of course, Gigi Di Biagio, Di Livio, Pagliuca, Gans, Di Francesco, a lot of Italian players that have stopped playing, maybe in the year before. And then I was fortunate to be in that group, and that was the chance to meet Paolo. We spent the whole course together, and you know how it works in this case. Maybe they ask you to do some group works, talking about sharing ideas, build project stuff. And then probably I think that Paolo liked the way my way to think about football, my ideas. Also, I wasn't afraid to stand to my ideas, and this is something that Paolo appreciated a lot. And I remember that after the course, at the end of this course, he told me, if one day I will have the chance to become coach, I would probably ask you to come with me. Then 3 years after, he rang me and he said, that is the chance, we go to England. And it took 5 seconds for me to say yes. Okay, go.
I was going to say that must have been just like dream coming true right there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and I'm presuming you weren't too worried about which team it was. I mean, obviously,
No,
did you know
not
an
at
awful
all.
lot about? Did you know an awful lot about Swindon Town before?
No, never. To be honest with you, I had never heard about Swindon Town Football Club. But for me, to join such a character, such an important player in Italy, because Paolo, of course, in England is an important uh, person in football, in Italy too. And if you think how many people he met in his career, and then the fact that he picked me to
Yeah,
join him, for me was already great, And when he offered me the job, I decided to go straight away, to accept without thinking, because there was no point to think. It's been always my dream to become a professional coach, and that was the perfect timing and the perfect chance. So, and then the rest is history.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, when before you started coaching, obviously, you were watching. I'm sure, like you were watching the Premier League when you were younger, and obviously Serie A and all other different football leagues. Were there any like football idols that you had? Was Paolo one of your football idols, or did you have many football idols?
Taking account that I'm older than Paolo first, so I think
Fair
that
enough. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, fair enough. That's a fair point. Fair enough.
and when I was a player, I played in totally different position. So I was a center mid, and I have different and other idols, if you like. I've never been so, look strange probably, but I've never been so passionate about players. You know, I've been always very much passionate about the game itself. You know, the way the way that the game is played. I'm more interested and more fascinated about the idea, the philosophy behind the team rather than the players themselves. I'm not the guy who idolize people. To be honest with you, one player that I always liked and respected was Pep Guardiola when he was a player, because the way he played, the way he performed, his position, his role was very similar to mine. So I was a typical center midfielder who didn't like to keep the ball too much, always available for the player, for the teammates, 1-2 touches, and I never ran too much, to be honest, but always in the game, always aware of what happened. And when I start to watch Pep Guardiola playing, I said, okay, this is the type of player I would like to be. Wasn't, you know, a coincidence that he became probably the best coach now in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna go on to a few questions that we're getting from some of the people watching. If I can scroll up on my.
Just while you're doing that, Rich.
Yeah.
Fabrizio, when come to England from Italy, I listened to an interview the other day with Stuart Pearce, who was at England international, part of the coaching setup when Capello was England manager. And he said there was quite a big difference between the Italian mentality and the English mentality. Whereas the Italian, everything was football, 100% total. How difficult, or did you find it trying to install sort of an Italian mentality into League Two players at Swindon?
Of course, when Stuart Pearce talked about Italian mentality, he refers to Capello, who is part of, who belongs to the top level of football. You know what I mean? So when we first came to England, we had to cope with League Two, which was, again, for me, no disrespect, but for me, League Two was my Premier League, and you know what I mean. So where I started from, but I understood that for Paolo, from a Paolo point of view, was a bit different, because he was used to lead the English football at the top. So he was always telling me, we have to change the mentality, we have to raise the standards, which was for me, which was weird, because for me the standard was already high, but it was my starting point that was low. What we struggled at the beginning was exactly to make the players understand that to succeed and to win something, the quality itself wasn't enough, because we started. I remember when in pre-season we started to study a lot the League Two clubs, watching football, watching previous games, and we realized that all the teams at some points started to struggle physically. More or less 20 minutes in the second half, all the teams the players were on their knees, and then we start to try and convince our players that to have a better fitness was already a good start.
Right.
And that wasn't easy, especially, you know, because sometimes you have to tell the players to give up something, in terms of diet or in terms of chips, stupid
Drinking.
drinking maybe. Again, no disrespect, because for example, I never seen an English player smoking. Okay,
No.
which is normal in Italy, for example. A lot of Italian players, top players, smoke. I've never seen an English player smoking, but I seen many times an English player drinking.
Sure.
No, because it's part.
Yeah,
It's part,
that's normal.
it's part of the culture. But
Yeah.
this doesn't mean that it's a problem. But sometimes, what we try to do was to make the players understand that to be better in that sense could give up points. And then at the beginning wasn't easy, but when the players start to realize that their physical conditions, their fitness, and the sacrifice that they start to make gave us a lot of benefits, then we start to fly. You all remember the first part, probably Rich and Karen, you're too young to remember, I don't know. But at the beginning of the first season, we were struggling, because we lost 3 or 4 games in a row. We won the first game, and then we start to lose. That was a turning moment, because it was like, if we go and we keep going with our mentality, or we are lost. And then I remember Jeremy and the board were, in my opinion, were amazing, because they kept, they stood with their decision, and then this gave Paolo and all the staff the strength to keep going, and then it worked.
So with obviously you talk about the diet there and stuff like that, and just is it true that obviously there was certain things that you didn't allow the players to have? So when it was in terms of like what they would have for lunch or dinner or anything like that, was there something particular? Is there anything that like really stands out that you wouldn't let the players have, and how strict was it?
We were strict with everything regarding the moments where the players were with us. We couldn't control them, their own private lives, their houses. But when we had lunch together, when we were traveling together, the pre-match meals, the day before the game were always controlled, and even the bread was we control. Even not me, man. It was more like, Claudio, the fitness coach, was very strict, and it was like always walking around the players, around the tables to control if they. And of course, this looked a bit, like we were too strict. I don't know if we were too strict, but the story was that it worked, because if you talk with Matt Ricci, for example, remember I heard some interviews by him that he said the way he started to manage himself as a player changed in the moment when he met ourselves, he met Paolo. The standards that we set were the standard that allow all the players to give their best. So yes, of course, I remember one couple of episodes. The first game away, or I don't remember, probably was a friendly game. We were traveling with the bus and walking, getting in the bus. There was the driver, the bus driver. I don't remember his name. Was a beautiful guy, a nice guy. I don't remember his name now. And he had like a basket full of candies, and all the players that were going through, and they grab, like a handful of candies. And when Paolo realized that, he threw the basket away out of the bus. But it was like again, sometimes you can say, it's a pain in the ass. But then if you want to do something more. If you
Yeah.
want to get something more, you have to change a bit your habit. This doesn't mean, I have to be honest, that was just a small part of what we did at Swindon.
Sure.
Because if we say that it was only about the diet or the fitness, we would lie. So it was also about the quality of the players, basically, the quality of the coaching, the quality of the environment, the spirit, among the team, among the town. Because I remember that every time I went to the car park before the games, the welcome of the fans was fantastic, was amazing. And to be honest with you, so it was a like combination of many things that led us to what we did. Not only the first season, also the second, even if it ends like not in the best way.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I think in terms of where was like the turning point of that season, because that the first season in League Two, because obviously, like you said, we had a bit of a slow start. The results weren't quite going our way, but obviously after that, we just started seeing result after result and started seeing a lot of consistency, and obviously everybody was getting behind Paolo and obviously the whole of the team and everything like that. What do you think the turning point? Because obviously we had some big results that season as well, especially in the cup as well. We beat Wigan 2-1.
But that was later. No, that was
I know that was in January time. So where was the turning point?
For me, I can say that the turning point was, if I'm not wrong, after Burton Albion away, probably, or something, where we did. That was probably the fourth defeat in a row. And I remember we were in the office with Paolo, and someone from the office said, "Can you please come upstairs? There's the board. We have a meeting with the board." And Paolo said, "Okay, let's go. Come with me." And I remember we were walking upstairs, and Paolo started to say to me, "They gonna sack us. They're gonna dismiss us."
Yeah.
And we entered the room, and there were the board members, Jeremy and other, also the owner, I think, if I'm not wrong, was there, Andrew Black.
Andrew Black,
and and Nick Watkins, they all there, and then we said, okay, it's gone, it's over. And we sat, and the first thing that Jeremy said was, "Paolo, let us know what you need to improve now." So that was the turning point, in my opinion, because we understood that they believed in what we were trying to build, and the fact that the results weren't, going according to what we of course we all expected. For them, it was not on the table that moment. So we were expecting bad news, but then I remember we came out from that meeting with confidence, and then we started to be more, strong with our ideas. We kept believing in what we are doing, and then it wasn't coincidence that the game after that meeting was Rotterdam home.
Yeah,
where we beat Rotterdam 3-2. We were
live
losing.
on Sky Sports, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was the
That's
first
right,
game live, and I remember probably Alan Conner scored twice.
That's right. Yeah. And then I think it was an own goal, wasn't it?
From that game on, everything started to, to go smoothly and in the right directions. Everyone started to believe. Everyone started to give his best, and then it's always happened. Players coming, players going. Sometimes you realize that some players that you have weren't right for the project. Some other came, so everything went in the right direction.
So was it like a kind of a trial and error? Because obviously we did see a lot of players come in, especially that first season as well, and a lot of them did come from Italy as well. Was that through Paolo Di Canio's connections, or your connections, or was it a mixture?
Not for me, because as I said, until that moment, I always worked at low level in Italy, and the
Yeah.
players that came were coming from a different level, a higher level.
Right.
Of course, Paolo relied on some agents, like everyone, every other coach in the game does. To be honest with you, the idea initially, the idea was to bring a couple of players, 3, 4 players from Italy, to make sure that they can help the other players to get the idea through, to get the message through, to get this idea of maybe a more organized football. We realized almost straight away that unfortunately it didn't work, because the players that came weren't used to English football, weren't ready and prepared to play at that intensity. You all remember Alberto Comazzi, who was a decent player in Italy at Serie C level, but then when he came to England, he was not for his fault, but he wasn't the player that we need. And then Paolo, in my opinion, was intelligent enough to understand that we had to rely on English players, because they knew better the type of football required, the type of environment that we can face. The only Italian player that did well was Rafa De Vita, but because he grown up in England, so he was Italian, but basically was an English player in terms of development. The other players like Cibocchi, for example, yes, they did something, but they weren't real. They didn't have a real impact on the team.
Yeah, I think Cibocchi. I think I speak for a couple of the members on the panel here, and we've spoken about Cibocchi a lot. We all love Cibocchi. We all just still call him Chibo. Yeah, short abbreviation. But yeah, no, Cibocchi. There was another player, I think, Kamazzi as well. I think he got sent off. Was it against Rotherham as well?
Yeah. That was another turning point. Kamazzi sent off.
We've got a couple of comments just feeding through here. Mike Dixon asks, was the bus driver then
Pete Cordula? Yeah, thank you, Mike. Pete, the big Pete, big Pete was. I don't know. Is he still alive? Yeah, I hope or no.
I'm sure Mike will be able to answer that. I'm sure he'll comment on that. Anyway, so we've got
was one of the nicest person I met in Swindon. Was always smiling, always positive, always giving some good mood to the players and to ourselves. Pete Cordula, absolutely. Yes.
Pete Cordula. So we've got a question in here as well. So from favorite player, hardest trainer, and laziest trainer while at Swindon. Obviously, mean that how you will. You can change the wording from laziest if you like. So the least energetic, maybe, or something like that. I'll let you change the wording for that.
Best trainer. I have to be honest. All the players we had at some point, they were like trying to challenge each other. So that was another, in my opinion, key point of our team. So all the players in training were challenging each other to make sure that everyone was giving always their best. So I can't say, but if I have to be honest, the best trainer probably was Matrici, because he was always keen to stay more on the field, to maybe to improve something, to practice, to rehearse some skills. He always gave 200%, never moaned, never bad word, even when he was struggling, because our sessions were a bit tough, especially in preseason. I don't want to mention the laziest one because it's not.
You don't have to. No, that's fine.
I
That's
have my
fine.
ideas, but one thing I can say, but this shows exactly what I was telling before. So at the beginning, one of the players that struggled the most, probably also because it was a bit lazy at the beginning, was Simon Ferry. Simon was struggling, but in the end was probably the one who gave himself the best account, so he started to be one of the players that Paolo was sticking every time to give more, and then he was struggling to accept this kind of regime. But then at some point it was like click, and then he became one of the leaders of the team, also in training, because he could realize on himself how good was the type of training and how beneficial was for him, because he changed completely. He became one of the best players we had. At the beginning was already ready to go, but then Paolo was aware of his qualities, because he was one of the best players we had in terms of intelligence, football intelligence, techniques and stuff. So this proves that even if someone is lazy, he's not always lazy. Can't be lazy forever. You can, if you try to find the key, then everyone can change.
Absolutely. And just carrying on with Simon Ferry as well, because do you think his character helped him maybe overcome, obviously being not so up for training, and then obviously, like you said, obviously then clicking and then becoming one of the stalemate players in the Swindon team to lead us on to promotion that year? Do you think that character, I mean, obviously Paolo's obviously a massive character himself, and do you think they all bounced off that, the rest of the team?
Of course, every player's character has an impact on the team, and especially Simon Ferry's character was something that was it was important for the mood of the team. Because even sometimes at the time I didn't get his Scottish accent, but then I understood better because I did my coaching courses in Scotland, so I start to understand and to get more the Scottish accent. But every time he opened his mouth, the other players start laughing. So that was the proof that he was good for the group. It was good for the mood of for the spirit of the group. And if you have a player like him, who is important for the mood of the group, for the spirit of the team, and the same player can become a leader, can become the one of those who can lead the others, then you have the beautiful mixture. You have the perfect mix of things, because sometimes there are players that are good for the spirit of the team, but they are not the best in training. They're not the best. They just want to act as characters, but they are not really effective for the team. He was both, and that was great.
That's and
can I just ask a question on that as well, Rich? Because
go for it, Mark. Absolutely.
Fab, you've spoken about obviously coming to England and Swindon being your first maybe exposed job in coaching rather than working through the younger age groups. You've spoken about the culture with bringing in Italian players and helping them get used to the Italian brand of football, and maybe then having to rely on English footballers as a result of the progression the team was making at that time. How did that impact the style of play that you wanted the team to achieve? Because you must have had a very good idea about attacking possession-based football, and was that the first few weeks or the first few games where we were struggling? How did you keep to your path to get the team playing the way that they eventually did and had great success at?
Of course, good question. I think we started with of course with our idea about how the team should play. Like it or not, the players make the teams. Even if you have fantastic ideas, good philosophy, good football, good tactics, whatever, but the players make the difference. And we didn't want to have we were a possession team based football, but more because the quality of the players and the fact that we were dominating the games at some point. If you remember, we were always on the front foot, and especially at home, we had a lot of possession, but the idea was to be quite direct. So Paolo wasn't the type of coach who liked to keep the ball a lot. He always said, we have to try and get to the point as fast as we can. Of course, there are games where you can do it straight away, or games where you have to retain the ball a bit more. Depends also on the way the opponent play and they defend. To be honest, I think that one of the most important things we decided to do was that having good players up front, because we had at some point we had of course Matt Ritchie, but quite soon Paul Benson came, Alan Connell came, and we realized that these guys were very good in scoring, and we worked a lot on our defensive shape. So we were very well organized defensively. And that was the difference, because I remember that we were trying to work and to teach our players, the back four, to work together. Whereas, for example, when we were watching other teams playing at League Two, they were quite, unorganized. So they were trying to play man v man, while we were working a lot on our back four, the movement of the back four. I remember one of the players that struggled the most was Aidan Flint, because Aidan was the player who relied almost only on his physical power. He grown up with the idea that just because he was stronger than the others, he could just fight and win duels and win challenges. We started to teach him that there was a different way to defend together with their teammates. And then if you think that we were in League Two, we were the best defensive, we had the best defensive record, and probably also in League One. That gives you the idea, So I think that when we were able to adjust our defensive shape, then everything started to become easier, because then we were always creating chances. And then if you defend well, you create chance. When you go maybe 1-0 down, 2-0 down, for the opponent was almost impossible to recover.
Great, thank you, Fab.
Absolutely. We've got a couple of comments coming through, Fabrizio. So this is from Sean. So, hi Fabrizio, my mate went to Rome quite recently, went into a post office type place, started talking football. When my mate replied his team was Swindon, the cashier jumped up saying, my team, my team. He went in the next day to post his postcard, and he ended up talking to Paolo on the cashier's mobile phone. Wow.
That is great, because it means that Swindon town is not just a team known in England, but also now in Italy as well.
Absolutely, yeah,
I think
for
that
sure.
probably, I remember that during those 2 years, talking with my mates in Italy, just because Paolo is someone who is renowned a lot here in Italy. Many of our games were televised in Italy, so for the occasion. And then, of course, Swindon became more renowned than what was before in Italy. So good
Absolutely.
for your friend. For
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a question come in here. So, hi, legend. Explain your emotions when Gary Roberts scored from the halfway line. I was there at Tranmere that night to take us top. Every town fan should watch those goals on YouTube. And speaking of which, it'll be something that I'm going to bring Kieran in to speak about as well that night as well. So, Kieran, go ahead.
Yeah. So Fabrizio, there's a lot of rumours that have gone around from former players to fans, and I think it's fair to give you your turn and what actually happened from your point of view. The rumour is that the pre-match meal was cancelled after Paolo resigned. The players stopped off at Stafford services and had to eat Greggs or Costa sandwiches, and that the intention was to lose that night on behalf of Mr. Canio, because he was leaving. Now, obviously, we went on to win, and there's lots of things, but there's always lots of rumours to that. So what's your side of that? What's your point of view on the story?
Listen, 11 now, it's 11 years has gone. I never talked about that day but now of course I can honestly say everything happened, and of course probably someone will take it, someone won't, but I have no problems. So that day was so we remember just the day, the Tranmere game, but we have to remember the 2 days before that game. I can tell you honestly what happened. 2 days before the game, so the game was on a Tuesday, if I'm not wrong, because it was a midweek game. We were third in table at the time. Paolo resigned for the reason you all know. Everybody knows why Paolo decided to resign. And when he resigned, he said, "We all resign." Okay. And then that was the idea. But then Paolo gave his resignation, and of course BBC Sports start to talk about his resignation, blah blah blah. I remember we were at his house with the staff, and I had my idea. I had to say something to him. I said, "Paolo, you have resigned now, and there is no point to come back, because now the news are spread." And then I said to him, "Why you should wait? In my opinion, you should wait after the Tranmere game, because if we win that game, we leave top of the table. Now we are leaving third in the table, which is not the best way to leave. Because Paolo wanted to give to send a message to the people and to the club. So we don't resign because we don't like Swindon, because we don't like the play. We resigned because the new owners were disrespectful to us, because the first thing they did was to sell Matt Ritchie to Bournemouth. So that was one of the worst mistakes they could do. And then, of course, so Paolo listened to what I had to say, and he said, "Okay, we can do something. You don't resign," because it was just him, the staff didn't resign yet. So the idea was, okay, I will lead the team to Tranmere. We hopefully win the game, and then we leave as top of the table. That was the idea. That was the plan. I led the session the day after the short session, and I could see the players were lost, because, like it or not, even if some of them didn't maybe like Paul because too tough, but it was clear that the team was knackered. The players were lost. They were watching each other. They didn't even took the session seriously and I realized that I couldn't be the leader because I wasn't the leader at the time. So when you work with a character like Paolo, you can't be the leader because he's everything. He's all about himself. Even if I tried to lead the session, the team, trying to talk, I realized that this didn't work. I spoke to Paolo and I said, Paolo is tough. It's tough. So what you do? That what I'm telling you is, no, they should reward me with the best psychology award ever, because just because I'm not just a coach. I always studied psychology. I always studied neuroscience. What I decided to do, of course, in accord with Paolo, so Paolo agreed with me, was to do a sort of reverse psychology. So during that trip, I started to talk with the players and said, guys, it's over now. We can't make it. We can't do that. We are not going to win it today. So I start to, instead of trying to push them, which I knew that couldn't work, I start to do the opposite. When you don't have a leader, you have to, if you want to succeed, you have to regroup together. So you have to find the strength together and try to rely on your teammate. If you don't have someone who can lead you, and I wasn't the one who could lead them, to be honest. So I started to do something that could light up their pride, if you like. It worked. It didn't work. It worked, because what was one of the best games that we played, and that proved that worked. So no matter what people can say, you can think, but that was the only way, in my opinion, to try. And because the day before the game, I received phone calls from Alan McCormack, Tommy Miller, Danny Ward, the most experienced guys, trying to convince me to tell Paolo to think about it and change his mind. But Paolo was didn't have the intention to do that. And to be honest, I know that that was like something that can sound a bit weird, but it's not, because sometimes you have to find a way to motivate the players, and there are many ways to motivate the players. Think about when a character like Paolo is not there, and me, where, to be honest, I've got the respect of the players, but I wasn't perceived as a leader, because I wasn't. And if you try to do something that is not, it doesn't belong to you, then it can't work. So I tried to do something completely different. And I remember that the team when during the warm-up, straight away from the start, I could see them playing with this pride because they wanted to succeed. So this is the official version of Fabrizio.
I think you touch on a couple of bits there, but I think Nick's got some. Nick, have you got something to ask there?
No, not really further on from that, Rich. Sorry. It's all I'd say on that, Fabrizio, that is just a fantastic insight to how you operate, and that is such a brilliant answer, and really thanks for being so honest with us. Really appreciate that.
Thank you. No, but because I can say this because it's the truth. The fact that I know, because I heard some rumors. I'm not stupid, and I keep listening to my mates. The fact that these rumors are fake. The proof is that I have applied for the Swindon job. One of the persons that offered me to join me as assistant is Tommy Miller. So that proves that the relationship with him is fantastic. It's always been, because we had always a very good relationship. So that proves that if there were something different, probably he could even want to talk to me. But
Sure.
and Rafa De Vita, who was there, is in Rome now, and he start to work with me. So once again, sometimes football is not so easy like people think.
It works in mysterious ways, doesn't it?
The standard in the UK, there's just always so many rumors, and it's worse with social media and stuff nowadays. But no, I think it's good that you got to put your side across it. But also, do you ever remember the Tranmere player that night back pass into his own goal with no goalkeeper in there? The funniest single thing I think I've ever seen on a football pitch. That.
Sorry, say again, Caden. Sorry.
Do you remember the Tranmere player? Where it turned around. He must have been on his own halfway line. It turned around to his empty goalkeeper, his empty net, because their goalkeeper's got up for the corner, and he's passed it back and hit the post. It was the most bizarre thing and decision I've ever seen on a football pitch.
To be honest with you, I don't remember this episode. I just remember, for example, like you said before, Gary Roberts scoring from halfway line.
Brilliant,
which was amazing, brilliant, and then of course you all know like what happened after we left, because that proved that when the leader, sometimes the leader is no matter if you like the leadership, because we can discuss, we can debate on the type of leadership. There are millions of books about leadership, and Paolo's leadership was a bit different from maybe other kind of type of leadership, but anyway was a strong leader. And when a strong leader leave, then there is a void, and then that was what happened, because when we left, the team started to drop a bit, not because the players were always the same, but so something changed in the team.
Amazing. We've got a couple of things. Just obviously, we've got a couple of comments coming in. So Mike's just confirmed. I think Pete Cordula is still at Barnes Coaches, but he's
probably sat watching this. Like
he probably is watching.
Okay, good for him. Good for him. He needs some rest.
There was another question in terms of the Swindon manager role, which we will come to. We will talk about that in just a couple of moments. One of the questions I did want to put to you, though, Fabrizio, which will hopefully lead on to talking about the Swindon manager's role. What's the relationship difference between going from an assistant manager, because you've been an assistant manager and you've been a head coach at various underage levels. What's the difference between the relationship of being an assistant manager to actually being a head coach?
Just to be more precise, I've been a head coach also, not just young players, but in Finland I was head coach in the top division then for 2 years. Of course, there's a big difference, because when you're assistant, you can you have to build your relationship with the players in a different way, but it's not always the same. So I've been assistant to Paolo for 3 years, and I've been assistant to another coach for 1 year in Finland, and it's completely different, because the way you perform your role depends very much on what the head coach wants from you. There are coaches that prefer you to be more on the field, like to structure the training sessions, like for example I did in Finland. I was more hands-on, in terms of sessions, in terms of tactical work. While, for example, in England with Paolo, I was more behind the scenes. I was a sort of also match analyst, because at the time there wasn't this role, and I was the one who studied the position. I tried to get the points from the opponents, like weaknesses and strengths, and of course I give all the information to Paolo, but Paolo was more hands on the field. So when you change your position from assistant to head coach, that is exactly what I was trying to say before. So you can become from assistant to head coach, but you have to have a new group of players. If you become head coach with the same group of players where you were assistant, sometimes it's not easy, because somehow you have to reshuffle a bit your type of relationship, because you change. The players are always the same. You are always the same, but the relationship have to be changed a bit. So, and it's not always easy. It depends a lot of the players you have. Of course, I had a lot of experience as assistant, but nowadays, now I'm head coach, and I prefer a lot and also now I have the experience and the age to be head coach, and this is what I am.
Sure. So let's talk about that then. So obviously, let's go into last summer. So obviously, the vacant. So in June 2022, the Swindon Town manager's job becomes vacant again, and Scott Lindsay is, after a very long process, Scott Lindsay is eventually unveiled as the new Swindon Town manager. He was obviously assistant to Ben Garner last season. That's why I asked the question before, obviously, about going from an assistant to a head coach role. But obviously, I just want to know a bit more about, because I know Nick's got a question as well about the interview process. But I just wanted to ask you, what were the events of last year when the Swindon Town manager's role came about?
What I can say is that it's no secret that I have applied for the job, but I think that 90% of the coaches in England out of the job can say the same. So I'm not saying something secret. I've applied. I did my recruiting process with the interviews and stuff, but then the club decided otherwise. No problem. I think that everyone is entitled to take their decision. So I don't see anything wrong in that. So of course I'm a bit disappointed for myself. I mean, because of course when you apply for a job, for any job, you would like to be in contention, and I was probably, and I was. And then when you know that the choice has been someone else, then you feel it a bit, but especially with Swindon, because my desire, my dream someday is to come back to Swindon as a head coach. But this is something that I can say. I used to say that 10 years ago. I always say that. So this has nothing to do with the respect that I have for the previous coaches of Swindon Town, the current coach, or the next ones. So I think that every coach deserves respect, because it's not an easy position. But I would lie if I don't say that I will come back as a head coach at Swindon, because I love the place, I love the club. That those 2 years was probably the best of my career. And then not even Sunderland, even if you were in Premier League, I can easily say that myself, my family were enjoying more our time at Swindon.
Sure. I think Mark's got something on in terms of obviously about Swindon. Obviously, Mark.
Sorry, what was that, Rich? Sorry.
Sorry. No, obviously about coming back to Swindon, possibly.
Yeah. Would you say you have unfinished business here, Fab?
Yes, I would say that because no, you know why? It's not. Maybe unfinished business is not the exact way to put that, because I was assistant there, so I didn't left in the same position that I want to be. It's not unfinished business. It's a desire to come there and to prove myself in a position that I think it's my now it's my in my knowledge in my experience, because as I said, in Finland I was 2 years in the top level. We won the Finnish Cup, so we were in the Europa League. I'm not anymore like the one who came there in 2011, coming from the low leagues in Italy. I have some experience. I work for a big club like AS Roma, even at under 17 level. But now a lot of players I coached are playing in Serie A. So I've earned my experience on the field, and this is why I would like to come back there, because once again, of course, coming back to England is always my dream. But if I have to say that Swindon is my desire, my dream, of course, I would say that, because also I left a lot of friends there. I left a lot of people that I would like to meet again. And then and football, English football is still the best, ever.
No, that's good. Well, hopefully one day, Fab, we'll see you holding that scarf aloft.
Why not?
I mean, Fabrizio, you're still the only one to have 100% record at Swindon. So, and I can speak on behalf of all the Swindon fans that we'd absolutely love to have you back at some point, whenever that time might be. So Nick's got a quick question, and then I'm just going to go over to the questions that we've got in from the people watching. So go far away, Nick.
Yeah, it's really around sort of the interview process. Obviously, football is a different job than many jobs out there. What actually happens when you're interviewed for a job as a manager or a coach with a football club?
You ask in general or Swindon? So in generally speaking, you mean?
Well, yeah, generally, or specifically, if you want with Swindon, either.
That it's a lot. It's a bit different. For example, in Italy, there's no interviews. So in Italy, maybe a director of football phoned you the day before and said, "Are you available to come to this club?" Yes, no, maybe. It's about the friend of a friend that recommend you, and then they know you, or the director have worked with you previously, and then 2 days is over. So usually in Italy there's not the same recruitment process for a coach, while in England, for example, there is the interviews. You have to apply for the job, you have to, and then of course depends. But to be honest with you, I've never applied for other clubs in England rather than Swindon Town. So the process in England is quite easy. I mean, you apply. If you're lucky, you will be shortlisted for the job, and then after the interview with the sports director, with the owner, sometimes. Then they will decide what to do, if they want to hire you. Of course, you have to somehow you have to talk about your idea, your philosophy, your football philosophy, what you want to do, what are your expectations. If you want to have a word on the transfer window, or you want to coach the players that the club gives you. You know, there are different, I think, different jobs, different ways to hire the coaches. That's it. I can't say differently.
Okay, thank you.
Brilliant. Yeah, so we've got we've got a shout out as well here. So this is from Barry. Can you give Annabelle a little shout out? She's staying up late to watch Falls with me tonight. Hi Barry, hi Annabelle. We've got something here from Sean. So we're on our way to the championship. What a shite time for Andrew Black to pull the plug close to the end of the season. May even have ended up with Bournemouth, where Bournemouth are now. So Fabrizio, if you and Paolo had stayed on, how confident were you that we were going to be up to, into the championship?
100%, in my opinion.
100%. That's what we love to hear. We love to hear that.
But we were think that until the closing day of the transfer window, everything was going fine. I mean, everything started to fall apart in 2 days probably. So we were absolutely up for that. So the staff ourselves, Paolo, the players, we were all working and pushing for especially before the Tranmere game, because we were, I don't remember the game before the Tranmere game, what was, I don't remember, to be honest, but it was a win. And then we knew that it could take few points to get to the top, and then we knew that the type of players we had, the type of environment, the spirit, it was we felt exactly the same feelings that we did the previous season. The decision from Andrew Black was a bad timing, like Sean said, because in my opinion it was also bad for him, because he could do that at the end of the season, probably with the team, with the club in championship, which was probably better in terms of the product that you want to sell. If there is someone to blame, I think it's him for what was the outcome of the season. Not Paolo, not the players, just him. But the problem started the week before when he sacked Jeremy Ray. And then when Jeremy left, we knew that something was starting to break.
For sure. Yeah, obviously it's disappointing, obviously, as fans, and the way that things were obviously happening at that time. But obviously, we still have those some of those amazing memories. I've just got a message here from Paddy. So, buonasera, Fabrizio. Looking back, what from your time at Swindon Town fills you with the most pride? Hope you are keeping well.
Thank you, first of all, and. I would say pride, proud every single day I spent at Swindon Town Football Club.
Fantastic.
Probably the most emotional moment was the Port Vale game home, when we celebrated with all the fans. We celebrate the winning of the league, because my family was there. My family came from Italy. My brother, my mom, we all were there. So the atmosphere of that game was amazing, was incredible. And then that was probably the best memory I had of the whole experience, because it was the peak of something that started, as we said before, started not in the best way, and that all the process that led to that day wasn't easy. Of course, the to enter Wembley with the team for the warm up in the League Cup in the final, James from the Johnston Paint Trophy final.
JPT, yeah.
JPT, yeah, that was another moment of my life personally that I will never forget, because taking account that less than 2 years before I was coaching in the lower leagues in Italy, and then all of a sudden I found myself at Wembley, which is probably the most iconic stadium ever, maybe with Maracanã in Brazil. And then for me was another moment that I will never forget. But in the whole experience, I would say the Port Vale game home.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, no, it's still one of my favourites as well. Obviously, being there at the time, and obviously seeing the trophy being lifted at the county ground. That was the first time in my lifetime. Obviously, I got to see my team lift a trophy, so that was absolutely fantastic, and it's definitely up there as well with me. So we've got a couple more questions. So from Nick, was there a player you wanted that the board didn't back you on?
Allora, was there a player? So can you rephrase, please? Was there a player you wanted? Okay.
Yeah.
No. To be honest, I wouldn't say that, because the players that we asked or Paolo wanted, the board did everything to try and get him and get it, so they always backed Paolo's decision. Maybe I don't remember if there were players that we couldn't sign, but for different reasons, not because the club didn't want, the board didn't back Paolo. No,
Right.
remember, even the last players before in the second season, before the closing day, the three players that we wanted, they were already there doing their medicals, So, and then everything fell apart, and we didn't sign them. I don't remember even who they were, but they were three good players.
Fair
Marlon
enough.
Pack, Danny Green, and Bradley Wright Phillips.
Well done. Well done.
I get a point.
That's the points for you there, Kieran.
Yeah, exactly. Those three.
We've got a message here from Toby. How frustrating was it that the players at Swindon seemed to follow, taking everything you and Paolo taught them, but this didn't seem to work at Sunderland? Why do you think it didn't seem to gel?
Honestly speaking, was frustrating, but I think that even Paolo, if he could come back to that moment, he would do probably things a bit differently, because what worked at Swindon couldn't work at Sunderland, or at least it worked straight away when we jumped over the droning ship, 7 games to go, where the team were falling down in the championship. They were like dropping, and then when you are in that kind of position as a player, you want to rely on everyone who gives you like a rope to don't drown, if you know what I mean. So you want to trust whoever gives you the hope, and that was what happened, because in 7 games, Paolo did exactly what we were used to do at Swindon, and it worked. While the second season, when we had to start from the scratch, new players, same regime, we realized that it couldn't work, because Premier League players are not League 2 players or League 1 players, unfortunately. I mean, and to be honest with you, at Sunderland, namely, were Premier League players, but in terms of skills and level, they weren't Premier League players, because players like Cattermole or Colbeck. To be honest, Kilgallen, yeah, they wear the Sunderland shirt, but no disrespect, but in my opinion, they weren't for that level. And then, but they felt they were. And the problem is that
Right.
when you find someone who wants to gives you like the eye opener on what you are, then if you're not intelligent, you try to fight him rather than to accept what he can give you. This is why it didn't work, in my opinion.
And I think you could see that as well with a few of the Swindon players as well. Obviously, like you mentioned about Simon Ferry earlier, obviously he had habits that he had to change in order to become the player that he eventually was for us. But and obviously, if he didn't do that, he probably wouldn't have a career with Sunderland. Obviously, if it didn't work, they might be able to find another team. Do you think that's probably a fair resumption on that?
Yeah, but because when you are a League Two player and you don't perform in a certain way, you know that next year you can be like a National League player, or you're no longer a professional player. So you are like in a turning point. If you go in this direction, then you know that you can still be a player or no. In a Premier League, where you have already maybe 3 years contract with 20,000 per week, you say, why should I do what you ask me to do? Why should I struggle in training? Where if you leave, maybe next coach will give me easy life, and I will still keep in my money. This is for average players. You know what I mean? So the top players, the top players don't think in this way. Top players think that they are on a good money. They want to improve. They want to always give their best and raise their standards. Average players, they're happy with what they have, and if they find someone like Paolo who push them, they don't want, and they probably fight this kind of person. But that said, probably we should be more open to understand this, and maybe try to be a bit more, I don't know the English way, but the English word, to be a bit more open to understand, and then maybe establish them ourselves more, and then do what we wanted to do.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. Absolutely fantastic that. Just moving on, because obviously I'm conscious of your time as well. So just from Nigel, don't hear that often anymore. Best defensive record. Yeah, I mean, our defensive record hasn't been fantastic this season. This is from Toby as well. Thank you, Fabrizio, for everything Paolo and yourself gave to our club. You will always be legends in the fans' eyes. I concur on that, absolutely.
Thank
you. We've got a couple more just coming in here as well. So, what was the approach of management team? Did you control any aspects off the pitch? And what is it about Swindon you loved, i.e. why did you want to come back? Oh, I think you've answered that question anyway.
Yeah. What about Woody's other question? Not that one.
Okay.
The one about...
Oh, okay. Did you ever piss Paolo off?
No, that is a question that I don't want to.
No comment.
Everything regarding my relationship with Paolo is just from between me and him.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What about the first question? We tried to control at the beginning almost everything off the pitch, but it wasn't a control. It wasn't about control. It was about trying to let the players understand something. Think about, for example, that we didn't, for the home games, we didn't even have the players for pre-match lunch. So that for the home games, the players came directly to the changing room. Maybe we play 3 p.m. The players were in the changing room. We meet the players in the changing room at 1:30. We didn't have a pre-match lunch together, so we trust the players because we at some point that the players got the point and then understand what they have to do, because then you feel that every single day, and then you don't need to control everything anymore.
Fantastic.
It's more about educating the players.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you can see that as well in a lot of teams these days, is obviously educate, especially the younger players coming through as well. I think obviously is massive. Paul, again, thank you, Fabrizio. You are such a wonderful person and coach. You would be welcome back by us fans anytime.
Thank you. Thanks.
So,
Oh,
okay. Just touching on that very quickly, Fabrizio, are you still with Swindon? So I'm trying to find the words for it, mate. Do you still pay attention to Swindon Town? Do you keep an eye on their scores and how they're doing and everything like that? And also another question is, do you still speak to Paolo?
Of course, I always keep an eye on how Swindon doing, because of if I have the chance to watch a game, I do that, because even if we don't see the English television, but I have the chance to have some games, the video of the games, and I like to watch English football, not only the Premier League, but also the lower leagues. And if I have the chance, I watch Swindon, and then of course I know the players now. I know how they're doing. I know that Charlie Austin is back, so this is great for the club and for him as well, because I think is the best way to live his experience time. Paolo, of course we are not in touch often like we were before, but then of course we still have a good relationship. We exchange some messages sometimes about our families, what they do, what we do. Yeah, it's a normal relationship as a friends now, not anymore as a colleagues. But also because he's doing something different now. He's working for the Italian television, Sky Sports, and he's no longer involved in coaching.
Fantastic. Just one more here. So Fabrizio has been my number one choice for the job since Richie Wellens left. Listening to the affection he still has for the club, he will continue to be my number one choice.
Sorry,
Jody. It just seems that you're so well loved here, Fabrizio, and of course we would want you again to come back onto our podcast, because there's so much more we would love to talk to you about your time here at Swindon as well. Does any of the other panelists do you have any other questions for Fabrizio?
Oh, I could be here all night talking to Fabrizio about many different things. We would love to welcome you back for another occasion, maybe in a few months' time, Fabrizio, if your calendar and schedule allows for it. That'd be a pleasure.
Of course. It would be a pleasure for me as well, and anytime. So
if you ever get the
football,
if you ever get the chance to come over for a Swindon game as well, I know obviously your schedule is obviously really busy, but I'm sure all the fans would love to see you back at the county ground at some point in some capacity.
I hope I will, and probably is something that I have in mind, because as I said, I still have good friends in Marlborough, where I used to live, and it will be the chance to come and visit my friends there, and of course to live again the atmosphere of the county ground.
Also, you could come on a night out with the Fools, and we can give you a proper Fools rushing evening, and I'm sure you'd enjoy it.
Yeah.
Get me night.
Okay.
Fantastic. Again, thank you so much for your time this evening, Fabrizio, and just for everybody. Obviously, we spoke off camera, but just so that everybody knows what exactly you're doing at the moment, do you mind just detailing what you're currently up to?
Yeah, at the moment I'm working as a head of sports department in an American college here in Rome. So basically, we have students, athletes from all over the world, but mainly from the United States. They play football, they play other sports, and I'm in charge for everything concerning to the sports department. It's an interesting job. It gives me the chance to broaden my experience also in man management with other sports, which is something that can always help because you have to learn also how to cope with players from other sports, not only football. In the meantime, I am waiting for the next chance.
The Swindon job.
Yes.
We would love to see it. We would love to see it. I'm sure
100%.
Absolutely. Again, Fabrizio, thank you so much for your time tonight, and we look forward to speaking to you in the very, very near future.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Fabrizio.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Still live, Rich.
You're offline.
Do we start singing? Wise men Lovely fools rush.
We are going to speak to a few of the other panelists as well about the game this weekend.
Okay. Okay. See you guys.
Thanks very much, Fabrizio.
Thanks. Ciao.
Cheers now.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Brilliant.
So so wow, that was absolutely fantastic. And like I say, we'll bring on the other Fools now as well, just to get their take on it, and obviously talk about Swindon Town versus the class of '92. So Ben, here is Ben. Big time.
Hello,
Ben.
boys.
How are we tonight, Ben?
Marvellous, thank you. What a wonderful job you did there, Rich. That was fantastic. And really good show. And thoroughly enjoyed it. And it's good to see Fabrizio in good form.
Absolutely. And we'll bring on Ned now. How are we doing tonight, Ned?
Yeah, good mate, good mate. I have to say, the Swindon fans have had an absolute plethora of wonderful content this evening. Jamie Russell was fantastic on the supporters club.
Yeah.
That absolutely fantastic, and Fabrizio was awesome as well. So lucky guys.
A little shout out to Vic and Co there at OSC. Fantastic job you did this evening with Jamie Russell and the fantastic content that you continue to provide to us. Let's bring on Woody now. Woody, how are we doing tonight, mate?
That's scary,
Woody's
isn't it?
frozen, so we'll move straight on to
Woody
We're live.
Yeah,
We're
he's
live.
messing
So-
about, isn't he?
We're
He's
live.
messing about.
We're live.
Woody.
Good job,
Woody's
Rich.
frozen.
Good,
We don't care for
good job, Rich. Good job. And if only you had told Fab how to press the leave button, they would
Oh no.
might have finished just like you, but it wouldn't be Fools without it, would it? So
No.
absolutely fantastic job there, Rich. It was really good to see inside Fab's mind as well. So I'm sure there was many more things we could have asked him, but was it like 10:30 over there now?
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So But I'll get Mark to obviously thank Fabrizio as well. But we've got another Piccareta on as well tonight. Craig Piccareta. How are we doing, Craig? How are you?
Yeah, evening, guys. Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, well done, Rich. That was really good. Christ, I could have listened, like Mark said, I could have listened to him all evening, all the different aspects of coaching, squad dynamics, and I just thought it was fascinating that they brought like Italian players in to try and instill that Italian mentality, which sort of explains the high turnover of players we ended up having. And so, like, you know, I didn't know that. So, like, you know, Paolo obviously accepted that it wasn't going to work with these Italian players. You needed English players coming in. Yeah. So, yeah, just that sort of aspect, as well as a lot of other things he said, was absolutely fascinating. So
I had a whole page of things asked.
I could imagine as a coach.
Then I had questions trickling in, comments trickling in, Twitter, WhatsApp, everything. It just went absolutely mental tonight.
He's a very interesting guy, isn't he?
Fabrizio's he's got such a great footballing brain, and you could tell that just by the way he was talking.
I would love to see him as a head coach at Swindon. We know that, especially nowadays, you know, a head coach or a manager's, you know, job is a short one. It's very rare that they last more than 2 years. So it's only going to be a matter of time before Jody Morris goes, whichever way it goes, whether he does badly or well. He's not going to be Swindon Town manager probably in 2 or 3 years' time. So I'd like to think that the next time the job comes available, that we get him, because you know, you just tell that it's not just his love for the club, but he's a very intelligent, and he seems to be a very, very good coach.
It'd have to be a change of management, though, Craig, because they didn't even interview him this time round, did they? Which I think is a crying shame.
Yeah,
it seems like a massively missed opportunity there, and obviously anybody
he can come in as technical director of football. That would be good.
I don't know. Maybe Jamie Russell's technical director with Fab as the head coach. That for me would be perfect.
And I think it was interesting as well when he said that he'd bring Tommy Miller as his assistant as well.
Yeah,
you know, that was very fascinating, considering, like he said, you know, with the question about the rumours about that game and everything, and which, you know, I know some might not believe it. They you know, but I would like to take him at his word that was the case. It's very hard to throw a game these days without the authorities sort of cottoning on to it. So yeah, I'd like to think that he was genuine with that, and I can't wait to you know, if he ever gets the chance to come back, that we'll see him in that dugout at the county ground.
Yeah, absolutely. And like we said, we'd love to see Fabrizio back at Swindon Town, and it seems as if he's more than he can't wait to be back. So, but just going on to things that happened at the weekend. Wow, did we see that one coming?
Yes,
Woody. I'll very quickly bring you in. Did you expect that from the weekend?
Yeah, I said we were going to win 2-1. If you look back on, on Friday's episode,
both me and Woody predicted 2-1 victories.
Yeah, and I also said when we were 1-0 down at halftime or whatever it was, I said we're going to win this 2-1. So couldn't expect it anymore, to be fair. No, in all seriousness, obviously it's a good result. It's what was needed. It wasn't the tidiest performance, but you know, at the end of the day, we've said many times on this pod, we're kind of not really fucked about the football anymore. We just want to win games. So, and that sounded like that's what we did. You know, it's and I think it was almost kind of written in the stars that the two players that are currently under a little bit of pressure, a little bit of fire at the moment, are the ones that were contributed towards the goals. I mean, obviously, I think Wakeland's criticism's been unjust, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree.
But to respond to that with a very good goal, can I add as well? And then Darcy, you know, to break out, he's come on in a kind of change formation, and then to break out on that, that's a cracking ball. If that defender's not there, Charlie Austin's knocking that in. So it's good. It's good to see. But as I've said many times, to bring us back down to earth, that means nothing if we don't win on Saturday. So it's, but yeah, I'm chuffed. Salford haven't lost at home for 4 months, so we seem to be doing that quite regularly. Because wasn't Northampton on an unbeaten run at home as well? And who was the other team? Mansfield hadn't lost in a year or whatever, and so we seem to be good at doing that. But it's no, I'm really chuffed. I'm chuffed for Jody more than anything, as well. Although by the sound of it, all you lot want him sacked. But yeah, it's brilliant. I was happy on Saturday night.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think I think obviously just going back to the Ronan Darcy thing, just very quickly there. I think we all know what his ability is to run forward with his energy and pace. So it was only a matter of time where he was actually eventually going to show that. Craig, what were your views on the game? How it panned out? I mean, obviously it wasn't the best of starts, but how do you think we obviously overcame that?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a great performance overall, but a win's a win. I said we had to win that game. I said we had to win the Sutton game. We didn't win against Sutton, but we did on Saturday. But every win's a must-win game. As Woody said, if we don't beat Harrogate on Saturday, then it will all be for nothing. I don't think we will ever have a better chance of back-to-back wins than this Saturday against Harrogate, because they're not in a great position themselves. Their home form isn't good. And they're looking over their shoulders at the moment, aren't they? It's quite open down there maybe Rochdale is slipping away, but that last relegation place is only between about 4 teams, and Harrogate is certainly in the mix. So yeah, it was important to get on win. I was delighted for Jody Morris. It wasn't a great performance. I think defensively was still so shaky. Clayton's come back from injury, but I think he's still a long way off becoming like he was before he was injured. Brennan didn't have a good game again. I personally don't think, and I know I'm probably going against the majority here, I don't think we should be playing 3 centre-halves, because we haven't got 3 centre-halves who are good enough to play there. We need, I think 4-4-2, but not your standard 4-4-2, if you know what I mean. That sort of, 2 up front, Wakeling, Austin, they worked well together, and that worked a treat. I mean, Wakeling's goal as well. Look, the technique on that. We know that he's got that ability, and they say form is temporary, class is permanent, and I think he showed that on Saturday. I think, we can't play 3 centre backs again. It's just not. We won't get away with a result like we did on Saturday if we carry on playing 3 centre backs. Not if we want to go up this season or even get into the playoffs. I think. McEachran looked good again. Jake Kames was solid as well. Khan, as I said in the group chat, defensively he's a fucking liability, but he's really good going forward. He was lucky to still be on the pitch at one point. With his clash with Lund, I think it was. That's right. You take that when you get it. It's swings and roundabouts. Whenever we've bemoaned decisions going against us, you need that little bit of luck. It all evens out in the end. I certainly believe. Iandolo, it was one of his better games, but that wasn't a high bar from lately. I still don't think as a left wing back he offers us much down that left hand side. It was Blake Tracy who offered us more down that left hand side, and he set up Austin's goal, didn't he? So yeah, it's it was, it wasn't a great
against Sutton, I think.
Against Sutton, sorry, yeah. But he was still doing that bit where he was coming down the left-hand side and getting crosses in, and he looked more threatening going forward down that left-hand side than Iandolo. But yeah, it was an improved performance from Saturday, which again wasn't a very high bar. But let's hope with if Williams comes back and a couple of others, we can start improving the performances and getting some results together. We need to get back-to-back wins. There's no getting away from it. We need to win every game until we're back in the playoffs. And our destiny is in our own hands.
Absolutely. Nick, do you think, because obviously Fraser Blake-Tracy went off injured halfway through that game. Obviously, in hindsight, we wouldn't have thought that bringing Ronan Darcy on probably was the best move if we were going to stick to a 3-5-2 formation. Obviously, it did work, and obviously he got the assist for the second goal, which obviously ended up being an own goal. But were you more surprised to see that Harrison Minturn didn't actually come on and fill up the back three? Well, let's face it, he probably should be starting because of our views on the actual defense at the moment. But what did you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, my initial view was we've got a centre half or a player who's playing centre half gets injured. We got a centre half on the bench, and he doesn't bring him on. But you know, what do I know? He changed the formation, puts Darcy on the wing, and he makes a goal. So. But, you know, I mean, I don't know what Minton's thinking now. To me, he just as well send him out on loan for the rest of the season, because if he's not going to use him, it's a waste of time him being on the bench. Hopefully, Blake Tracy's injury isn't too bad, but it doesn't sound brilliant. I think from what you read, he might be struggling to make it Saturday. But yeah, we got to go to back four again. In listening to the comments on the game, I listened to Low Strangers and they talked through the game. So the difference when we switched to a back four, the defence was so much more solid than it was with three centre halves, because you have two centre halves that are close to each other communicating, whereas with the three, it seems to be confusion. So hopefully we can change to that. Again, you know, we've banged about it all season. Blake Tracy's got to play left back, and you said earlier, Rich, yeah, he was going up the wing, he was knocking crosses in, he was making things look good. Get him at left back for Christ's sake. Hopefully he's going to be fit. The other good thing is Jody Morris has now got a full week to work with them. If there are players coming back from injury, bigger squad, more options. So yeah, it's looking more positive. A win does everything for the team. We said we needed to win. It was a must win. And I know Craig don't like it, but Craig, it is typical Swindon. You go to a place that hadn't lost a home game for Christ knows how long, and we win.
It was a typical Swindon thing to do, wasn't it?
Nick, Nick, I put my hands up. You were right, mate. So, you know,
I was pissed off after 4 minutes because I predicted him to win 1-0. I thought, well, that's put my prediction straight out the window. So, but yeah, I mean, that was a fantastic result. Performance wasn't great defensively. For the goal was awful, but we scraped it, and I did see the stats briefly. I think we had less possession, less shots on target, but the only stat that matters is the goals. And someone said, great, didn't we shithouse them again? Absolutely brilliant. In what there's not a better place to go and put in a shithouse performance than there. So yeah, chuffed to bits. And as everyone says, Saturday again, crucial. We've got to win that Saturday.
Absolutely. And Ned, very quickly coming into you. Obviously, that was Jody Morris's first victory as Swindon Town manager. How big of a confidence build will that be going into the rest of the season?
Oh, I mean, it was a long time coming. You can certainly with McEachran, you can see what he's trying to implement. You know, I think the closing down at the front. I mean, obviously, when you've got Austin, you're not going to see a huge amount of that anyway. But you can see that the instruction is to win the ball back as soon as you can in midfield as well. And McEachran was smashing that brief. You can really see that he's taken what Jody Morris is trying to install in the team. I think if you had 3 Wakelins, I think that would be the ideal scenario up front. But like everyone said, I mean, I completely agreed with everything that Craig just said, and that's not me being negative. I just everything he said is. Oh, what is going on? Okay, there we go.
Ned, that's what happens when you agree with me.
What is that?
I vote Rich.
What's
Yeah,
up?
I reckon Rich as well.
What's going on?
Can you not hear it?
No.
Then it's you.
It's definitely you, Rich. Right. Anyway, so yeah, I completely agree with everything that Craig said. I think he's absolutely smashed literally every single thought I had on the game. So I don't really have to sort of say too much now, really. That pitch was a massive factor. I think the wind was a massive factor as well. That first goal, we clearly didn't sort of, get to grips with the conditions. What an absolute shit show that was. But yeah, it was weird, wasn't it? The pitch was, there was more grass on a slab of concrete than there was on that pitch, and for some reason, the roll and the bounce was still quite true. But then when they started to talk about the rain coming down, it's just like, oh my god, because it's the only player who's used to it for Swindon on that pitch was Khan, and I thought Khan had a really good game, but I absolutely agree with the the potential sending off and giving the ball away for the first goal. But bar those minor incidents, I thought he had a really good game. He's I was very impressed with Khan. But yeah, it's just a wonderful performance. Everyone can take a lot of heart and confidence from that game, because it's not so much the games where you play brilliantly well, it's the games that you don't play brilliantly well but still come away with the victory. Those are the ones that really gives you the heart that you can go on and take it to the next level. So yeah, I'm very, very happy, very, very happy, and I'm sure Jodie is as well.
Absolutely. Ben, I mean, Salford are playoff contenders, aren't they? So the fact that we got a win over them, absolutely fantastic, isn't it? What were your thoughts on the game?
It bodes well for Orient in a couple of weeks, doesn't it? When we go there when we're not really fancied.
I mean, we want to have our away record as good as possible, right? I mean, what a better way to get it right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the game itself actually reminded me, it wasn't too dissimilar to Saturn midweek, where, in fact, we had less possession and less attacking opportunities. We only had one shot on target, scored two goals.
It was a shit pitch as well.
Yeah, it was a shit pitch. But I think the main difference is we didn't get a questionable, let's say debatable decision towards the end against us. Or we'd done the similar sort of thing where it's backs to the wall against Saturn. I think that sort of win for a young team does more confidence building and more morale building than the Grimsby game, because that was a backs to the wall, and that sort of performance is something that's questioned about our team as our character and our mentality, which is something that has been brought into question. Do we have the mental toughness to drag out a result, which we couldn't do against Sutton? So I think I'm encouraged by that. Craig's absolutely right. As we've said all season we've gone to, the result means nothing unless we follow it up, and then we've always followed it up with a disappointing result. It's do or die now. It's the run-in's not that far away. We really got to keep up with the pace. That door was slammed shut before Saturday of the playoffs. We've now just opened it a little bit of a crack where we're back in the conversation again. We can kick it open if we beat Harrogate. Because we would be right back in the mix again. Won't be in the playoffs, but we'll be in the conversation. So yeah, there's lots. George McCrack, can we have a special mention to George M, who's really been out not playing any sort of football at all for a year. Walks into the team.
Sorry, what was his name again, Ben? What was you on about?
George M.
What was his last name?
McClacken. Oh, Georgie boy.
Sorry, mate. I'm so sorry, mate. You're not the only one who's been struggling with that name.
Oh, it's terrible. I've
Paul McLaughlin.
These as well. So but yeah, no, I think a special mention goes out to him. Because usually you hear, well, these players are out of contract. We brought in. There's a reason why they've not signed for a club, and they've got to get to match speed, match fitness. That's going to take 4 or 5 weeks. He's just walked in the first team like he's been here all season. And Alcus is going to be in a month's time when he's match fit. I think we've just pointed off a blinder there. So George Ezra.
How long have we got?
I think George M could be or George M or the new Macca or whatever he is now. I think he could be. I think it could be a real asset if we're there or thereabouts going into the run. Also, I was very impressed on a side note with the Charlie Austin view midweek on ITV. Sort of fires up, going, "Yeah, go on." I don't know if anyone's seen it or not, but all he does is bang on about promotion. He knows.
Yeah, I saw it today. I watched that. I gave that a watch today, and obviously, I don't think he's changed anything that he said in previous interviews with Sky Sports when he first joined. He's obviously definitely got his eye on promotion, which is, I think, well, maybe different to some other people that are in the Swindon club at the moment.
Maybe.
Yeah, but it's obviously good to see that the players have obviously got that mindset, and if they don't, then they shouldn't be here really.
Exactly, 100%. And I don't think Austin will let that chat happen where we will just take him. He'll be like, "Come on, lads, we've got one goal. This is it. Push it on. We all want that on our CV. Let's make it a special season." I think he's the right chap to have in there, and he gives a shit. When a quality player like that gives a shit, then you got a chance. So, it's fingers crossed for a good performance. And also some returning players as well. We might see in the lesser speckled Divine might get a game, like left back, if FBT's
T-Boy, isn't he? T-Boy, isn't he?
Yeah, a picture of him was,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I tell you what, Ben, the day he starts, I'll buy a lottery ticket.
I know.
To be fair, he has been warming up, hasn't he? He has been in the shots and of being on the training ground and everything like that. So who the hell knows? I mean,
but the Fraser Blake Trophy is a real concern. We can't play through at the back because we don't have 3 defenders. If he's not going to, and there must be a reason why Morris isn't playing Minton. Something he doesn't like him because he likes to give young players a crack. That's the whole thing about him. So there's obviously something about Mino that he doesn't like. So we really are short on centre back.
Or maybe he just doesn't want to take the risk as we're in a promotion push, apparently.
Maybe if we fade away, he might get regular starts, but we shall see.
Ned, just going back on, obviously George McEachran coming back in, breath of fresh air, right?
Yeah, I think the fact that he was under Jody in the Chelsea youth team, he knows what he wants. He knows the style he wants to implement, and obviously being fit, he just walks straight back into the team. But yeah, he looks fantastic. He was everywhere. He was all over the pitch. I just a very quick question, and maybe Woody potentially can answer this. But down our left-hand side, I was watching it and thinking, you'd have Iandolo on the left wing, and then an over, and then Fraser Blake Tracy running past him. You think he's fucking centre back, and you kept on seeing this over and over again. McEachran as well on the left hand side, but what's that? What was this? Winger stroke centre back position that we seem to have implemented over the last couple of games.
Well, it's not unusual. I think we did it against Bradford.
Yeah,
it's not. We did it against Bradford. That's what those two exact were doing. And also, that's when you play that kind of holding midfield role. You're expecting one of them to sit in if the two left-sided players go on. And I think, although he's not a defender, Iandolo can defend to a certain extent as well. So if FBT does bomb on, then Ellis is there to cover. It's not unusual. I think the only reason we don't necessarily see who's on the other side, it's Clayton, isn't it? No, Clayton's. No, it's Brennan. Was it Brennan on the right side?
Yeah. Brennan's right foot.
So Brennan hasn't really got the ability to do that, in my opinion. So.
That's the quote. That's the quote of the year from this one. Well done, Kofi.
That is sensational. Oh, brilliant.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's just intriguing because it's you expect McEachran or someone else to be running past Iandolo, and then all of a sudden you see the centre back. You're like, what? Where's he come from?
I mean, Blake Tracy was more threatening than Iandolo on that left-hand side, wasn't he? He caused more problems, and because the Salford commentators was saying, "Oh yeah, you got the wing back." Blake Tracy, so they didn't even know the formation. The Blake, they're saying, yeah, he's a very good attacking wing back, and I'm like, well, he looks like he is there, but that's not his actual position. So that just showed how effective Blake Tracy was.
Or maybe all along we were playing two at the back.
Maybe,
we were actually playing 2-6-2.
Yeah, that's it. 2-6-2. Yeah.
Oh, Nick, is the playoff charge still on?
100%. I went through the remaining games, and I predicted we'd draw Sutton and Salford. So 2 points. We've got 3. So from my reckoning, we're 1 point further forward than I thought we would be. And I predicted we'll lose the next 2 games and still make the playoffs. So we win 4 points from those 2 games. No, sorry, I predict we'll beat Harrogate and then lose the next 2, Orient and Carlisle. So if we can get 6-7 points out of those 3 games, we're well in for it.
You've got us on some run going if we've got to lose the next 2 after Harrogate. Well, you win the next 8 in a row or something.
Number one, Nick, we don't want to lose against Leyton Orient because
because we're going.
Yeah, and number 2, we don't want to lose against Carlisle because that will ruin.
Because that's I know.
Yeah, we don't want to lose Carlisle.
No,
we can't lose to that. Those are the 2 games we do not want to lose to. No, I was going to bring Craig in, but I don't know where he's gone. Never mind. But yeah, no. In terms of our next couple of games,
sorry, I'm back, Rich. Just get another beer, mate.
Yeah, you had to get another beer. Craig, what are your thoughts? Because obviously Nick's obviously very positive in terms of actually us getting to the promotion. After Tuesday, do you still think we're going to struggle? And if we were to get into the playoffs, what do you think we'll need? What do you think Jody would need? Do you think he'd need any extra players? Just players coming back from injury? What do you think we need?
Well, I'm not going to shock you by being my normal pessimistic self, mate. But it's like I can't remember who it was in the comments saying you don't want to get ahead of yourself like we did against Mansfield, like we did against Northampton. So it's probably me, not me being pessimistic, but me more trying to protect myself from the disappointment. Really, I just still think that this squad just hasn't got what it takes to get promoted, and it's 50-50 for me whether we'll make the playoffs, to be honest, with this squad, even when Williams comes back and a few of the others. I just think it's going to be too little too late for us this season.
I think 50-50 is optimistic as well still.
Yeah, it probably is.
That's more than optimistic from Craig.
Christ. Yeah, it probably is. Yeah. I've probably overdosed on my happy pills.
Steady.
25-75, really.
You want to promise tonight, Craig?
But I think no. Unfortunately, not, Ned. No. When's my birthday? No, not for a while yet, mate. So,
few months yet.
Although my wedding anniversary is coming up next month, actually, my 1-year wedding anniversary. So as long as I remember that, I might be in with a chance, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, don't forget that for Christ's sake.
Well, it won't be good if I forget it after the first year, Nick, which probably I wouldn't put it past me. But yeah, we just it's down to recruitment again, Rich. We just need better players in certain positions, i.e. centre back. And elsewhere really for us to go up. I think we'll make a good like Ben was saying about this. That result was a good morale boost, and hopefully that'll mentally spur the players on and give them that sort of mental strength to give it a go. And I don't doubt that they will. They certainly will give it a go. But again, it depends if we win against Harrogate. If we just draw against Harrogate on Saturday, then that's it for me, which seems a bit unfair on this young group of players because, you're basically saying you've got to win every single game, but that's the position we're in now. Unfortunately, that's the position we've allowed ourselves to fall into. And I think it's just going to. I've said it time and time again on here. If Morris gets us promoted this season, if I can put a statue outside the county ground, because he'd have done it with one of the most mediocre squads probably put together for a promotion push. This squad is good enough for top half, but I don't think it's good enough to go up. But who knows? Anything's possible. You look at Bristol Rovers last season. We remember it was like around about October time when we beat them, and people were calling for Barton's head. And then the next thing you know, they've picked us and picked Northampton for automatic promotion. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for, but it's more of a sort of like a dream, really. But I think the real work will start next season, and hopefully it'll be under a different director of football.
Woody, Craig obviously mentions there about Bristol Rovers, and I think I think the difference was the fact of their January transfer window was a hell of a lot more successful than our current transfer window that we've just had in January. But they brought in a player that completely changed their team going forward, which was Elliot Anderson from Newcastle on loan. Do you think George McEachran could potentially be that player? And do you think the combination with him and Saidu Khan will complement, hopefully, all the players around him, and with Austin and Wakeling going up front?
Controversially, I don't think Khan is going to be the answer. We're already talking about the fact that he nearly got sent off again on Saturday. I think he is going to pick up another red card before the end of the season, which is a bit annoying because people will say it's inexperience, but the guy's 27 years old. So it's not inexperience. It's just he's just a Roy Keane. But McEachran, yes. I mean, there's no reason why he can't be. Normally to that answer, I'd say we shouldn't theme it around one player. We put too much pressure on one player. But as Ben said, he's not played competitive football. He would naturally have kept himself fit because he'll have the Chelsea fitness regime and all of this kind of stuff. Like, you could pluck any player that hasn't played, for a year or whatever, because I don't think he's even played under 23 football. He would have kept himself fit. So he only has to overcome the challenge of match fitness. Now, when you're a player and let's not forget this guy, that George McEachran, he was at one stage on the board of being in the Chelsea first team. So technically, he is good enough, and he is probably too good for this level. The reason he's at this level is probably because he hasn't played for a year. And obviously the Jody Morris connection does help. Of course it does. But yeah, the sky's the limit for this guy. The expectations, hopefully, I hope Swindon fans just keep that kind of expectation that he is going to be the hero kind of down low a little bit, because we need to take the pressure off him. He is a very talented player. But when we look at last season, even when we were heaping the pressure onto Harry McCurdy, kind of putting us into the promotion spots, he then went on a run where he didn't score for a while, and it's just kind of. But yeah, I think looking around, I've said all along. I've definitely said since January, I don't think the squad is quite there, but who knows? One thing we know is Jody Morris is going to get the best out of the young players in the squad. And I think confidence is everything. Like I say, if Wakeling goes on another run like he did at the beginning of the season just because of that goal, that will change things. If Austin's still banging, it'll be like, not exactly like, but if you think of Doyle and Yates when they were playing together, if Yates didn't score, Doyle did, and if Doyle didn't score, Yates did. So if they can continue that, as I said, we just need to pull away as a club, as a team, pull away from this. We ain't going to be keeping clean sheets. So we need to focus everything down the other end of the pitch. And we need to do that. And it sounded like he switched to that on Saturday. So keep playing with that mentality, and who knows, we might see a new Darcy coming around now. If Reece Devine does make an appearance, it might turn out that he's, he might be a George McEachran. It's kind of, it's turning now into a shared responsibility. How much the players want it, as well as how much Jody Morris wants it. I'm not going to rule it out. And with, I think with Nick, Nick was kind of alluding to earlier, it's mathematically still possible, so we shouldn't rule it out. But there's no reason. I think McEachran's probably a better replacement for Reed than Kane is. Oh, well, there we go. Someone's just literally said the same. I think he is a better replacement for Reed because he offers that creativity that Reed had, whereas Kane offers that kind of defensive. Apart from their goal on Saturday, he offers that defensive unit that we kind of need. So I do think, but I just hope that I am going to downplay the hype on Khan, unfortunately. But I think I'd like to, when Johnny Williams is back in and stuff like that, you just wonder who's going to go out of that, kind of front three, midfield three. And I wouldn't necessarily he was wrong for it being Khan. But either way, you never know.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. Ned, I'll put this question to you. Is there any fringe players who could yet make their mark on the season? Aguiar, Devine, Adaloy?
Oh, Shade.
Shade.
Sade.
Yeah, well, we're at the stage now where, it's early doors in the Jody regime, and anyone who puts in performances now has got every chance of shining for the remainder of the season. So I don't know what's going on with Aguiar. I don't know if just Jody doesn't fancy him or something. I don't know. But I guess the same goes for Tommy Adaloy. That kind of, I don't know. He come on at the weekend, but you still just get the impression that he's not fancied. But I think, if Shade puts in the miles, I think if he, runs himself into the ground, he's got every chance of being in that starting 11 and scoring goals. That's what I personally think. And I think, the kind of player that's going to do well between now and the end of the season is someone who's willing to, put the miles in and put the work in to see us over the line. I think maybe some of the players who, not prepared, should we say, to run the miles and put the strong work in. Jody's going to see him out of the team sooner or later, aren't they? So, I think Shade's got a great chance because he's got pace, and if he applies himself, he's definitely got the potential to be the type of player that Jody wants. Go on, Ben.
Ben, I was just going to bring you in because I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I was going to say on Shade itself, and I'll say this actually probably while Scott Lindsay was still here. I think Shade is probably one of the most improved players since the turn of the year, going back from Northampton. We've had in the squad. I think he's a lot more direct now. He's a lot more positive. He gets the ball, and he runs at defenders. And there's 2 goals that he has scored have been. I think he set one up actually when against Grimsby, and he scored one against Northampton, where he's just picked the ball up midfield and just ran with it and took on players. So yeah, I don't actually mind Shade getting back into the first team now. Where before Christmas, he was a bit of a joke and a bit of a comedy footballer, but now he's a genuine contender for the first team. So I just think a bit of kudos and Shade actually for toughing it out, and I think opinions are changing on him a little bit. So,
do you think that was a timing issue then, Ben? Do you think he
I
needed
think it might be confidence. It may have been Lindsay. It may have been confidence. It may have been fitness. He may have had a niggle that we've not known about that he's had for a while. But I think we're seeing the player that Walsall saw last season. But because they rated him, they thought he was the best of a bad bunch. And I think we're I think we're just seeing. I don't think he's an automatic starter by any means. You know, for me, he's off the bench and he can be an impact player. But I think he's now, you know, if he comes on, I'm not rolling my eyes going, for fuck's sake, anymore. I'm actually quite encouraged when he comes on because he's direct. He gets the ball and tries to make something happen, and he's got a bit of pace and he can use it. So yeah, I just wanted to say a little bit of my opinion on Shade is turning.
Can I just
go for it, Craig. Yeah, absolutely.
Firstly, if we think that Shade's on the verge of the first team, then we're just settling for mediocrity. I'm sorry, I don't agree with anything that Ben and Ned have said about Shade. I don't think he's good enough for us anyway. He might be a decent League Two footballer, bottom half maybe, but not for a promotion chasing team like Swindon. If we settle for players like Shade next season, we're going to be in the same position this time next year. So I'm sorry, we should demand more. We should demand better what we want from players.
I'm supposed to agree, guys.
That's Craig we know and love.
Yeah, look, I'm sorry, you know me, I don't like to, scapegoat players. Shade isn't the reason why we're in the position where we are at the moment. I just don't see it. I just don't think he's good enough. If we want to push, if we don't go up this season, next season, we don't want Shade anywhere near that team because that means that we're settling for the same mediocrity we've got this season.
For the record, I agree, Craig. Who said that?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I really just don't see what he adds. Apart from being quick, I really don't. And having a shit goal celebration, I really don't see what he has.
He needs to land that. He really does need to land
it. He needs to score a decent goal first, and then he might actually land it.
Craig, every goal is a decent goal. So I'll come in halfway house on that. I think the key for us doing anything for the rest of this season is players on the bench that come on in the last 10, 15, 20 minutes. I think the front two are fairly settled. It's going to be Austin and probably Wakeling most of the time. Yeah. It might be Jepcott for some games to give Wakeling a bit of a rest. It's going to be two from those three. So you've got then Hepburn Murphy, you've got Shade to come in as impact subs. And I think that's going to be the difference. Same with the midfield. You've got a good number of midfield players. And like Christ, I can't even say it now.
You've been on the wine side. Come on.
I haven't. I haven't actually. Number 5.
Number 5. We're just going by numbers now.
Number 5.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's getting up to full fitness, so he hasn't been playing 90 minutes. So you're going to have, it might take him a couple more games. You're going to have midfielders coming on to take those final minutes out. So to me, the key is how Morris uses the squad. And I think if he gets that right, and gets the best out of the likes of Wakeling and Austin up front, and then supplements that with the likes of Shade and Hepburn Murphy. I'll put it out there. We will still get into the playoffs.
Can I just say as well, because the original question was about fringe players who might make an impact. I don't know how far Kean Harris is off from getting back, but
that's a good shout.
That could make a difference, especially if Morris does decide to play free at the back. He just got injured at the wrong bloody time. I know we could be accused of bias because we sponsor him and everything, but
I mean, you could tell by the 2 games that he had just before he got injured as well. You could tell that there's a player in there, and we're crying out for a natural left-footed centre half here. So
exactly.
And we don't want a left back playing centre back.
And that would push out, that would negate the need for Blake Tracy to be in that position. And also Agua, I don't see why he can't be given a run out. We saw when I think it was it when Payne was injured last season?
Yeah.
Agua came in, he scored those 2 goals in one of the games. I can't remember, but
Warsaw.
Against Warsaw.
5-0.
He didn't look out of place in that team. And this was in a team that was, chasing promotion as we're like trying to do now. So, I don't see why he can't be given a chance. He proved it on the pitch then. He didn't do anything wrong. that last season. So
He's a great option. And so he scores goals as well, and he creates chances, and he's not afraid to have a pop.
Yeah, that's exactly, Ben. He's not afraid to have a shot from outside the area, which is something we tend to not really do this season. So yeah, for me, it could be them two, Harris and Aguiar. Aguiar. I can't say his name now. Fucking hell.
Ricky
Aguilera.
It's catching.
It's catching. Yeah. So yeah, those two. Maybe that could make a difference. I would really love to see them given some opportunities, and that might make a difference as well. But we'll have to wait.
Let's not forget about Tomlinson as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
If he's ever fit again,
I'm sure he will.
He's kicking balls now, apparently.
I bet he is. Woody, what's your thoughts on Tomlinson?
I was expecting a different question for some reason. Obviously, we saw bits of him last year. I don't think we're going to see him complete 90 minutes this season, which it's annoying because I want to take kind of the sentiment out of it, of the fact that he is a Swindon lad, he is or Chiselden lad, that he wants to play for the club, he loves playing for the club, and I will never forget that rocket of a goal on his debut. But the thing is, I almost feel like the more the injury goes on, the more I'm thinking this was just a sign-in to try and get the fans back on side.
Just to please us.
It feels like, and it was arguably quite an easy sign-in to make because Peterborough were ready to let go of him, and he was always going to come to us if we put the offer on the table. I sometimes wonder what goes on with these medicals nowadays, because there used to be a time where if you were injured on the time you signed over the dotted line, you weren't getting signed.
Yeah.
But yeah, because it's not like it's a small like groin strain or something like that. Like a small time injury. It sounds like it's going to take him out for a couple more games.
Well, when he arrived, they said it was 2 weeks, and 2 weeks are gone, and he's only just started kicking balls. So obviously it's been a setback somewhere.
And it is a shame because it just makes it weird that we got like 25 left backs in the squad and none of them ever play. But yeah, I don't know. Is Jody waiting for him to come back from injury before he goes back to a back four? I don't know. But I just feel it pains me to say it because I want to take the sentiment out of it, but it feels like a waste of a space at the moment, waste of a space in the squad. I love the guy. I love the fact that he's playing for his hometown club, but it's just, and he's obviously one of the nicest guys, bar Johnny Williams, in football. But, at the end of the day, I think it would have been better to put our energy elsewhere to sign in someone else, someone that would have been able to come in and make an effect straight away. I mean, we're talking about who's that centre back that's been linked with us, free agent at the moment. Who's been linked with us, Wisdom for the last couple of weeks. Like, if we had put the energy into signing him, even in the transfer window, we would have had him over the line by now. You know what I mean? And it just. Yeah, it goes on to that knock on debacle, and I'm not going to slate Dean McKaylee. Try not to this thing, but it goes on to that knock on debacle of how many distractions we had in the transfer window, and yeah. So Tomlinson, can't wait for him to be back. Don't get me wrong, can't wait for him to be back, but I also feel just a little bit annoyed at the fact that it feels like we're not going to see him play 90 this season.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think that's probably the same as most of us, to be quite honest with you, which is obviously a massive shame. Just a couple of questions coming in. McEachran was on corner duty at Sutton, which surprised me. Was he on corners at Salford? Anybody answer that? He was? Okay, great. Cool.
I mean, I didn't see him do too many set pieces against Salford, but against Sutton, his delivery was brilliant.
Yeah.
Much better than Reed's. That's for sure. So
yeah, he was actually being the first man for once, wasn't he? Yeah.
But he was getting it more than 2 feet off the ground, which helped. So yeah,
well, that too. Yeah, absolutely.
But that's and that gives us more options as well, because we haven't really been that deadly from set pieces. I know we haven't really got the height for it from corners, but it helps if the delivery is a bit, is a bit better, which he obviously seems to have. Didn't see it as much against Salford, but certainly against Sutton, his set pieces were pretty impressive.
For sure, absolutely. Steve again. Will Jody be the first coach to publish player stats then? He's very active on Instagram, isn't he, Jody? He likes to post about his golf. Lavinia, my pick. Shame he got injured. I think that's towards Lavinia. Obviously, we've got Lavinia as well. I mean, he obviously had a couple of great games for us before he obviously got injured. Obviously, like with every player, seems to be he's just very injury prone.
He was another one that's supposed to be a couple of weeks, and that's been set back. I think he's been doing weights, I've seen on the website today. So, but he's supposed to be behind Tomlinson in fitness. So, how long is he going to be? We don't know.
I would like to see with Lavinia in the long term. I reckon Hutton will be sold at the end of the season. Yeah, I reckon we'll sell it, and I want Lavinia obviously to take his place. And I reckon he would. I reckon he would be 10 times the player that Hutton is. Obviously, he's different slightly because he hasn't got the crossing ability of Hutton, but he can score goals and he can. I think it was Ben who said that defenders are scared of him when he comes running at them. So I'd like to think that if Hutton does go at the end of the season, I mean, I know we're talking about next season, not this season, but the chances are he's probably not going to be.
Got to remember, Hutton's had a full year of first team football ahead of Lavinia because he was at Barrow last year playing regularly as a right back, mastering his art there, and Lavinia's only just played 11 first team games.
I think if Lavinia can stay fit until the end of the season, and get a chance. Sorry. No, that's all right.
I think Lavinia as well has had that obviously Tottenham and Chelsea kind of DNA into him as well with that attacking fullback mentality. That's why Chelsea and Tottenham produce kind of fullbacks that can score goals and stuff like that. So I think we'll start to see that starting to shine through probably next season now. Obviously, Jody must have crossed paths. He did say, didn't he, Marcel? I think he did say he did. At Chelsea. So, I think I'm with Craig on that. I think we've got potentially quite an exciting future with Lavinia. He's just not had a chance to really. When he started hitting the ground running, the poor bugger then got injured. So it's
the Swindon way. As soon as you hit form, you get injured.
The Swindon way.
So, just last question, just before we move on to other bits, because I think we've covered most of the Salford at the weekend. I think, obviously, with all our players, all these players potentially, hopefully coming back, is this the sign for things to come? Will it prove difficulty for Jody Morris to pick a squad? Because arguably, we want him to have a selection headache. Nick, what would your thoughts be on that? I'll go around in order of my screen. So, Nick.
Yeah, obviously, the more players he's got available, the better the options. I think he's probably got a reasonably settled 8 players, maybe, and then it's the ones on the fringe, which ones come in. And like I said earlier, to me, those other 3 players can be any 3 from 6, and I don't think it'll make the team much better or worse depending which ones he puts in. And then, as I said, it's having the option of decent players coming off the bench that can do something that can actually change a game. And you talked about Shade and that having pace, but if you've got Hepburn, Murphy, Shade, got a bit of pace about them, Adeloy coming off the bench to see out those final 10, 15, 20 minutes when teams are tiring, to me, that's going to be the key to our season. So, and again, with him having another week with the players, installing what he wants them to do, to me, we're not a million miles away. So, yeah, to me, it's looking good. But, I've got a positive head on me today.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ben, same to you?
It's always good to have players returning. Hepburn Murphy, I think, really was getting into his stride before his suspension, which was a shame because, it's the first time he's got regular first team football. So hopefully he's super keen to give it a good go. I worry about our defence, so I think our best plan of attack is to attack. I think we might get away with it, Carragher, but I think when Orient we've got a problem. but yeah, I think we're going to go a bit more. I went to a 4-2-3-1 formation second half against Salford, which I think was preferred formation when he was at Chelsea. I think we'll do that again with the two holders, which probably be McCracken and George Boy. And Khan. I'd love to see Williams back. I hope Williams' head's all right. I think he's going to be a really important player for us coming up Saturday. But we shall see. Let's see how it goes and how injuries and suspensions are, and hopefully players aren't too far from returning. And hopefully when April comes, because it's a busy April, everyone's all fit, firing, and ready to go. Which one thing actually could be a slight light and is it a silver lining in the cloud or whatever the saying is. At least these players going to one hell of a hectic April will be kind of rested because they've all been injured and suspended, so they'll be all right going to playing Saturday, Tuesday throughout all of April. But yeah, we shall see. Let's hope we do well Saturday.
Absolutely. And Ned, same question.
Yeah. I mean, we've got probably about 5 or 6 players on the fringes of coming back to full fitness in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So as Ben says, it's going to be key for the run-in. Obviously, I'm a bit Craig this evening. I'm feeling a little bit negative. I just wanted to stress, because obviously we're still slightly talking about Salford. Salford was shit. Don't. There's no getting away from that. I really don't want to run away with, now we're on the right track. Salford was rubbish. They were blinking awful. They should have scored so many goals.
Wasn't it? A Ronnie Rosenthal's type miss when he gave the ball away.
Matt Smith was shocking, wasn't he? He was. He had a terrible game, didn't he?
Yeah. He scores that. It's 2-0. They've won the game. Yeah. We're not coming back.
Not just that miss though. He was just. You think that the height and the strength that we had in our defenders, you'd have thought he'd have bullied them all day long, but didn't.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and
so we are very lucky to come away with the 3 points. But as we said before, as long as that gets the mental side, and we can start to be a little bit more confident, then job done. But let's not get carried away. If we was playing against Leyton Orient, we would have got flipping dicked. We didn't play well. They played even worse, which is why we won. Let's be completely honest. Anyway, that's it.
Woody, do you think that's potentially a risk that obviously that can be now, that we could get potentially carried away with this victory now?
I think it's been a risk all season, because I think our record shows it. But at one point we were win loss. So it's I think I say it's a Swindon fans thing. I think it's a general fans thing that when you are one of the favourites from the beginning of the season to kind of really push on, just because of how we did last season. In terms of the fringe players, I still think that even with the injuries coming back, we're still missing a few. The thing is what we've got to remember is a lot of the injured players, or some of the injured players, are coming back from long-term injuries as well. So that's going to have an impact on kind of how fit they're going to be, how much they're going to be able to play 90 minutes. We need to try and get that into our free agent market, especially with, like Ben said, with April coming up. We need to dip into that, get those guys fit come March. I was looking earlier, I thought maybe a free agent at centre back, maybe a free agent in centre midfield, just kind of bring a couple of those in, see how we get on, and then get them fit over the next few weeks, ready for that Saturday, Tuesday in April. I think I've seen that Zane Westbrook, for example, who was at Bristol Rovers last year. He's now a free agent. He wasn't a bad player. I think there's players around. There are players around that haven't got a club. Tom Carroll hasn't got a club. It's kind of Tom Carroll hasn't got a club.
I can't believe that. He's such a good player.
He hasn't got a club.
It must be a wage thing. It has to be a wage thing.
Yeah.
And a shit agent.
Yeah, I seen that the other day that Tom Carroll doesn't have a club, so it's just kind of like I'd like to see us. I think if we don't make some of those important key signings, then the fringe players they might not have as much of an impact as we want. Of course, I could be talking out to bollocks, and the other the other players come back and they're fully fit straight away. But unfortunately, my experience in football would tell you that very, very rarely happens. George M. Is a bit of a coup, I think, in the fact that he must be a player that's just really looked after himself in the time he's not been playing. Either that or he's been chipping out of the dog and duck every Sunday or something. So just to keep his fitness up. But yeah.
Definitely. And Craig, last question to you before we move on. Can we get our first back-to-back victory? Back-to-back victory. I know it's our second since.
It'll be our first
since Lindsay left.
It'll be our first since Lindsay left. Yeah, I don't see why we can't beat Harrogate. They're not that good, and on our day, I think we can beat them. But what Ned said is spot on. We have to be careful that this win over the weekend didn't paper over the cracks. And I'm going to do a quick recap here. Mainly because I'm not going to be on the next few episodes because of work, but it's relevant to what Ned has just said, because we've had it time and time again where we've had a good result and it's papered over the cracks. So if you look at August, right, that's at the beginning of the season, our first 4 games, no wins. We had 3 points out of 12. Then we beat Rochdale. All right, Rochdale was shit. Yeah, we were better, but it was it was a good win, but it wasn't the most convincing of win because of how poor Rochdale were. Then September was arguably our best run. Our first the first part of the season where we had back-to-back wins, and we were unbeaten as well in September. We got 10 out of 12 points. So arguably, you remember what we were saying at the time, moaning about Lindsay and about the draws and stuff like that. But September was our best run. Then we had October, 5 games. We had 3 wins, including the last time that we had back-to-back wins, and 2 defeats. So we got 9 out of 15 points before we beat Mansfield. Now, Mansfield was a game that papered over the cracks again, right? And then in November, what happened after Mansfield? We got smashed by Stockport in the Cup. And then we had no wins in 4. We got 2 out of 12 points and 1 goal scored before we beat Barrow 1-0. Again, that was a game that papered over the cracks. You see where I'm going with this?
Starting to become a pattern, isn't it?
Yeah. December was an inconsistent month, to say the least. We lose to Warsaw on Boxing Day, but we beat Northampton away in that performance. Again, another
paper for the cracks.
So those games in December.
That's how we're from Swindon. There's so many fucking cracks in this pavement.
Yeah, I know. So before Lindsay's departure in that month, we had 2 wins in 7 games, 8 points out of 21, and then we win against Grimsby. So and then we have
this is slowly becoming the Craig report. I think.
Yeah, sorry, mate. Well, this is something that I wanted to mention before, but I haven't had the chance to do it, and I probably won't again. And then we'll probably win our next 3 games, and it won't be relevant. So yeah. And then we have 4 games where there's no wins, 3 defeats, 1 out of 12 points up until we beat Salford on Saturday. Now I'm hoping that is a game that's not papering over the cracks, and then we go on a good run. If we get back-to-back wins against with Harrogate on Saturday, that could totally transform our season and go against what's happened so far, where we've had these wins against Mansfield, Grimsby and Barrow, where it's been great. And we're all like, even myself, I said after the Northampton game, yeah, we're going to beat Colchester. And what happened? We got beat by them, didn't we? So that's my concern. I think it's I think it's all in the back of our minds, but I think that we can, we are good enough to beat Harrogate. I don't see we shouldn't have anything to fear. they're the ones that are looking over their shoulders and thinking that relegation might be on the cards. So, but yeah, who knows?
Craig, just comment on what you've said there. That says one of two things. Take Orient out of the picture, and the teams in the league are all much of a muchness, or it's just a total shit league and anybody can beat anybody. And
I think that's a given.
And even with all those results, we're still in with a chance of the playoffs. Now, what you just described there, if you'd have said, well, with that setup, where would you expect to be? And you'd be, well, probably above the relegation zone.
Yeah. No, it's a fair point, Nick. Although I'd argue, I'd say the top four are moving away from us now. Yeah.
Well, maybe the top two.
Yeah, I'd say the top four now. I can't. You're looking at Carlisle and Northampton. All right, Northampton haven't been consistent. I think Carlisle lost on Saturday, but I think they've got enough now where they will break away. And as I said before, I think it's going to be a battle for the last two, maybe 3 playoff spots. No,
definitely.
But yeah, you are right. Anyone on their day can beat anyone. We held our own against Orient, didn't we?
Yeah.
So yeah.
We've beat good teams and we've lost the shit teams. So
yeah. Just very quickly on that point as well. Like, you got to look at Forest Green last year. Although they did pull away quite convincingly, they were top of the table. But even I can't remember who was second.
End of the season, their arse fell out. That they lost all 4.
Exactly. And who was second last year? Who went up with them?
Exeter.
Exeter
should have won the league, but Forest Green beat them on the last game, didn't they?
Exactly. So things like that can easily change. Although they're about 10 points ahead of us at the moment, there's no reason as to why they could go on a shit run as well. Every team in this division is going to go on a shit run. So
Stevenage are doing that right now. They're having a little bit of a wobble.
They're not as convincing as possible.
With their manager and the team that they've actually got, they'll have enough.
They'll be all right.
Yeah,
I think they'll be all right. But
their recruitment was top notch in January. So it's.
I will say our defining is the next 3 games, because we've got Harrogate at home, and then we've got
Leyton Orient
away, and then Carlisle. We need ideally 7 points. 7 points, ideally.
I'd agree with that.
6 at minimum, but ideally 7.
Hopefully 9.
No, we love 9. 9, I think. 9. I'm laughing, and 9 we're back on course. All aboard the good ship, piss the league. But I think
it's the playoffs. I think
he had to say.
To be fair to Ben, though, Rich led him down that garden path.
Yeah, he did, didn't he?
So, yeah.
Oh,
these next 3 games are humongous, because if it's 1 point from the next 9, then we're done.
Remember what I said. If we do get promoted, I've got to perform a sonnet for Sandro. So yeah.
Get right on it
to Sandro. A sonnet. Sonnet to Twitter as well.
Or as Ben would say, we'd win it in spite of Sandro rather than because of Sandro.
Yes, yeah.
Exactly the Lindsay thing. By the way, just going off the subject of Swindon, there's some really odd tweets going on with the Crawley fans, because they lost on Saturday 1-0 to Orient, a runaway leaders, 70 points, massive everywhere else. And the fans are falling out with Lindsay. Lindsay didn't go and applaud him at the end of the game, and the fans are all turning against him a little bit. You only lost 1-0 against the runaway leaders away from home, and you're second bottom. But apparently it's all not going well for Lindsay, but they're not quite taking to him.
I think their whole club's a bit of a joke, though, isn't it, with their owners and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
so
I think
I'm not really too sure.
Maybe because of what's been happening with the owners, they've probably got less patience with Lindsay than what they would with anyone. But yeah, that club's just a basket case. I'm just thankful that we're not like it. As much as we moan, moan and everything, I'm fucking glad that we're not that club. I do feel sorry for their fans, to be fair, because I don't think any football fans should have to go through that with what they've had to go through.
talking about the likes of Crawley, and people were moaning a few weeks ago about us losing certain players. And I noticed Gladwin wasn't even in the squad, so I assume he's injured.
Was he not? Oh, bloody hell.
Reed wasn't in the Mansfield squad, so I assume he's injured. So that's possibly 2 players that wouldn't have been available for us. Payne is still on the bench at Charlton, so it seems whoever leaves us struggles. McCurdy's out injured, isn't he, up at Hibs?
Yeah, Egbo.
I think it's only McDonald who's getting the game.
Yeah,
after what Payne said about Swindon last season and what he's been on the lower league look, I would have a look into getting him back again in the summer. I'd love him to be a massive coup.
He won't.
He won't come back.
He won't come back. He'll stay near his family in London now, won't he?
You think all the options that he'll have down that neck of the woods, he won't come back to us. I wouldn't have thought.
Well, because he sacked off Lincoln in League One because he wasn't getting a regular to come back to League Two. I just don't know. He does love the club. I thought he might consider it, but maybe it's because I've had some Jack Daniels tonight. I might.
Matt Smith.
That's just not you being.
Come back.
Rich, can I just if it's all right, can I just talk about Tommy Adeloy a sec?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
somebody, I think Fifey mentioned.
I think it was Fifey. Yeah,
somewhere right now, Fifey's ears are just pricked up.
Can I just say, like, our fans get criticised. Sometimes it's rightly so, and we've all got our own opinions about our own fans, and we're no different to any other fan base. I honestly think this in the country. You have fans that are over the top. You have fans that are sort of level-headed, or you can even accuse those that will just never ever criticise the club. But fair play to our fans at the end of the game on Saturday for singing Tommy Adeloy's name. For a player who's hardly played this season, has been low on confidence and everything. When he came on the pitch and at the end they were chanting his name, that our fans just went so much higher in my estimation when they did that. Because how often does that happen? And it just goes to show that footballers are, especially at this level, that they're human beings like the rest of us. And I think it was it against Barrow that when he missed an opportunity and the fans got a bit arsey. Total turnaround, and he, all right, he scored a goal when he came on. Who was it against? Was it against Newport?
Yeah,
against Newport when he scored that Newport goal, and then he didn't play against Sutton. And then he comes on, and our fans are singing his name and chanting his name at the end. And I just thought that was a really nice touch for him, and fair play to our fans for doing that. And I think it probably meant a lot to him as well that he had that support. So it was a really, really touching moment. And I think
see over 700 fans being there as well, and obviously hearing that as well, and hopefully we can get that back at the county ground. I mean, I'd love to see it. I'd love Adeloy to really do well here. Yeah, I really would. I think I
think with Adeloy again, I don't think
you're taking over from Fifey.
Who me? Yeah.
No, Rich is hosting Adeloy fan.
Yeah, the job description, Nick. Huh? You can only be a host if you're an Adeloy fan. That's why I don't host anymore.
Oh, right, got it.
I've always wanted him to do well.
I'm the Fifey advocate. I am. So, yeah. But I think, unfortunately for Adeloy, it was just the wrong club at the wrong time for him. So I mean, I hope whatever happens, he just goes. His career, he
takes off
to better and brighter things is what I'm trying to say. But I thought it was important that we mentioned that what the fans did, because our fans get criticised from time to time, and I think credit where it's due. The way our fans, applauded him and sung his name, I thought that was pretty special.
If only they sung about Shade, hey Ned.
I
mean, that guy scored important goals.
Hey, right, he only scores important goals. Has he ever scored a consolation? I think he's only scored in wins.
Has he ever scored a consolation? Can you imagine that on your CV? I'm a striker, but I've only ever scored consolation goals.
For God's sake.
Shane only scores bangers and winners.
Oh dear.
Put the Jack Daniels down.
At the moment, where Rich has been moving around, it looks like something out of the Blair Witch Project.
Yeah.
It's getting all dark. I think he's going to be
God.
crying in a minute. I'm so scared. I'm so sorry.
Oh, brilliant. Well, we'll just quickly move on, boys. We've got a couple of other things to talk about. We've got the women's football at the weekend. So just to confirm, on Friday, we will have Beth Kellaway returning to the podcast. So it's Woody versus Beth to be continued. We will very, very briefly talk about the World Cup, Woody. I know you'll probably wait for most of it to be talked about on Friday, but just very quickly, just your views on not necessarily the result for your team, but just in terms of the actual occasion itself.
The only reason I'm on tonight was to prove a point. Yeah, obviously, to be fair, I think the occasion, we talk about the occasion, probably got the better of our girls, to be fair. You know, we didn't turn up, to be honest. I'm not going to beat around the bush on that. We weren't good enough. Warminster were very good. They weren't very good. That's a lie, actually, to be honest. But they did what they needed to do. You're right there, Ben.
Yeah, sorry, I've just had a tweet from Paddy, so he wanted to add a little dare for me.
That was immense timing. That was, Ben.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, I thought you had a question, Ben.
No, sorry.
Ben actually likes women's football all of a sudden.
Paddy.
So, but yeah, no, fair play to them. Can we put that down low there? Because that's a nightmare. Fair play to them. I had a bit of banter with Beth in the clubhouse afterwards as well, which is which is nice. They were the better team on the day. Don't get me wrong. I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this. It's probably the worst officiating I've seen in a cup final ever. Rich, you were there. You'd probably agree with me on that one.
Yeah, it wasn't hard.
But yeah, it's but that's not the reason we lost. We lost because we weren't good enough. So yeah, minus the foul on our keeper. But
yeah, Woody, I guess that there was an issue with the officiating from your passive aggressive tweet that you put out. That was so subtle, mate. That was unreal.
Many aspects of the game. No, to be fair, the girls are disappointed. It was probably the worst performance, in my opinion, that I've seen since I've joined. We did genuinely believe we could win before the game. We thought, I was very cautious on Friday when we had Beth on to say that, that it was going to be tightly contested. They've got good players. They've got some good individuals. Their average age squad is probably a few years above ours. So they did what they needed to do. They shithoused the game where they needed to. They finished well. But yeah, we just didn't do enough, and we've got to concentrate now on just trying to stay up more than anything. I did say to Beth afterwards that they obviously didn't need her, so she must be shit. But yeah, no, and obviously, I know that Johnny, their coach, Johnny House, he watched our pod on Friday as well. I had a quick catch up with him, and he was quite appreciative of us still having Beth on as well, which was nice. And as I said to Beth, always welcome on. She's one of our faves. She's one of our viewers' faves. And like I say, I'm not too downhearted when I reflect on it, because they were, as I said on Friday, quite clear they were the favourites to win it. It's just a shame that we didn't really give them the competition that we needed to, in my opinion. But that's cup football. Cup football is a one-off game.
Absolutely, and we look forward to hearing from Beth as well on Friday when she returns to the podcast. I managed to speak to her during the first half.
Funny enough, I don't actually think I can come on Friday.
Oh, no.
that is actually genuine as well.
Yeah, all right, mate. Yeah.
I managed to speak to Beth during the first half of the game yesterday, so it was very interesting to see. And I think the thing that we picked up probably the most was Woody's body language and reactions to some of the moments that happened in that first half. We were wondering what was going to happen, so we look forward to divulging into that on Friday. So hopefully, Woody, you can make it on. It would be great, but if not, don't worry. We'll obviously try and cover most of it with Beth as well. So, and we look forward to having her back on. Just very quickly, we will move on to Swindon Town women. So they played Portishead this weekend, and they won 3-1, I believe, wasn't it? It was Colston, Evans, and Attenborough that scored the goals, wasn't it, Woody?
Yeah, and I think a special mention to Emerson as well, Emerson Evans. Obviously, you know, 16? I think she's still 16 years
second
old.
Appearance, wasn't it?
It was her first appearance of the first team, if I remember rightly, or it might have been her second appearance.
I think that's what it had on the tweet. Yeah.
So she's done well in the development. I think, and I'm not going to take credit for the signing because that would be very wrong of me. It would be very, very wrong of me. But James Lally's text to me just as I left was, if managing to get Emerson Evans is your last, I don't know, act, I guess is the correct words, then it's not a bad one to land on. And I'm so glad that she's doing, because she was tearing apart leagues when she was younger. You know, so I think she was a talent to spot from the off. So when you think of what's coming through on that front line, when you got Colston already there, Annie already in there, and now you've got Faith Kingdon and Emerson Evans coming through as well. I mean, I think the development won at the weekend as well in a friendly. Faith Kingdon scored her first goal for the development team. So it's just it's a really exciting, and Emerson Evans is one player that is going to go far. I would put my neck on it to say that now. That even I think if she goes the right way and that she keeps her head grounded, she'll be pushing into those top two tiers. I have no doubt about it at some stage. Maybe possibly not the top tier, but you know, sky's her limit. I think she is a very underrated player that has kind of gone unnoticed, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Well, we'll look forward to hearing more about Swindon Town women. Obviously, coming up, it was a good result in all in terms of where they're going. Obviously, it just came off the back of a loss to Moneyfields last week. They obviously had a really good win yesterday, and hopefully that's a momentum push, hopefully for them, and hopefully Evans will get a little bit more into that first team. I know there's very competitive spaces in the whole Swindon Town women's squad at the moment. I think they've got 22 players signed on in terms of the first team and the development team. So yeah, absolutely competition for places, and you know that can only go one way as well for Swindon Town women. Hopefully they can push on to get as high a finish as possible in their league, whether or not that is challenging for promotion. But like I say, all we want to see is them finish as high as possible. So all the best to them for the remaining games. Do we know who they've got this weekend at the moment?
That'll be covered on Friday, won't it?
Yeah, we'll cover that on Friday. Yeah.
They're playing Thursday first. They're playing Thursday night away to Maidenhead.
Oh, are they away?
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm working late.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, they're playing. I can't remember who they got on Sunday, but they're definitely playing, because I was going to make sure I mentioned it tonight before Friday's pod. But yeah, they're away to Maidenhead, because most of the National League sides have got fixtures midweek this week. So, but yeah, so if you're not in Swindon, have a look round. If you fancy some midweek football, there'll be a National League fixture on somewhere, I'm sure of it.
Absolutely. And we'll just very quickly finish on, because we just got some news in tonight. Oh, for God's sake.
That was poor timing, wasn't it? That was poor timing.
Rich, you've got to be the only YouTube presenter that has to clap. Has the clapper. I said has the clap. Sorry.
Has the clap.
Plenty of those. Don't worry about
it. Sorry, mate. I so did not mean to say that. Oh, God. Sorry, mate.
We'll just very quickly finish on. We've just got some news tonight about something that's happening at Melksham Town Football Club tomorrow. I'll just try and see if I can share my screen.
Close the porn down, Rich.
One day that's going to happen, isn't it?
Can we see? Can you see that? By the way, guys.
It's that Rich. Yeah, it's that
Great.
Rich.
So as announced,
Des Walker and Dennis Wise.
It's saying 69 girls or something on there.
Yeah. Call me for a good night. 0900. Hold on. Let me just write down this number. 09.
Sorry, Rich. Sorry, mate. Yeah,
that's all right. No worries. So obviously, it seems like a weird timing, to be quite honest with you. Obviously, 1 o'clock. But obviously,
I guess that's because they're streaming it live to Thailand as well, aren't they?
True. Yeah. So it should be available to watch.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But
or
very good for obviously Melksham Town to get that, and obviously Dennis Wise and Des Walker coming to town. So good for Melksham and good for the football club. So fair play. But guys, we're slowly approaching 3 hours now. So, but I think we've covered pretty much everything tonight. So I'd just like to thank everybody here. So Nick, Ben, Craig, Woody, Ned, and then obviously before that, Mark and Kieran. And of course, thank you so much to the amazing Fabrizio Piccareta for taking the time tonight to join us and obviously go through his story about being at Swindon Town and his coaching career. And we look forward to hopefully having him back on in the very near future. Guys, as always, thank you so much tonight, and look forward to seeing you next time.
See you later, Rich.
Bye.
Take my hand, take my whole life too, but I can't help falling